What's up, nerds, and welcome back to a new episode of the That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all the things we nerdy, all the nerdy things we love about them. This week, I'm your host Frank Pisani, and I'm joined by my special guests Cameron Abbott
Hey, what's going on?
and Christian Puente
Nomura's Revenge.
and Brandon Gann.
How's it going?
Yeah, and first off, thank you all for joining me because as I think people who've clicked on the video and the podcast probably know, this is the 20th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts, and so I kind of gathered together some of the biggest Kingdom Hearts fans I know out of my friends, and we get to sit. Now we're going to sit down and have a really awesome kind of discussion over, like, we'll probably cover little bits of the whole series, but we mainly are going to cover some of our histories with the series. We'll cover our reactions to the new trailers that recently just dropped, and then we'll also go over just kind of some speculation and discussion on like what we hope to see and also what we think we're going to see. Yeah, so let me see. There's no housekeeping this week, so I think we're pretty much just going to dive in. So pretty much, yeah. So I kind of want to go based off of, like I said, starting with some of our histories of the series. I actually want to throw it over to Brandon first because we've never really talked about it that much, like between the two of us. I'm kind of curious where kind of you're coming from there. So yeah, what's your history with the Kingdom Hearts series?
I didn't jump in right as it came out because it was 2002, but I do remember the first memory I have was in grade school. I want to say it was in fifth grade, I think. I was outside, like on a quasi playground at school, and I was overhearing a friend talking to a friend of a friend, as it were, about a segment in Wonderland in Kingdom Hearts 1, where about moving the teddy bear and getting a book, and then that was just enough for me to really like kind of start paying attention. Like, what are you talking about? And then a little later on, I remember like being in a Walmart, I think, and seeing that Kingdom Hearts 1 box art on the PS2, and like, what is that? I want that.
It's so engaging.
I want that now. So I had my mom get it for me, took it home, and just from the start up, I was just blown away. And in terms of the full history, I actually do have a little prop here because, quite frankly, I like the series a lot, quite a lot. So yeah.
If you look at your MP3s, you'll see Brandon holding up a stack of game boxes.
Of all kinds of game boxes, PlayStation 3, PS4, and Nintendo DS across the entire franchise. But I've been with it since Kingdom Hearts 1. I was actually on board since right before Chain of Memories came out because I do remember getting the GBA version when it did come out. So I've been pretty much a KH fan since not quite day one launch beginning, but from the beginning for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and that's what because I've heard definitely that you are a huge fan, and then that I mean you even brought the creds to prove it.
Had to bring some.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wish my other games weren't boxed up since I had just moved, so I could go and start like pulling some of them through. Especially because I bought that. For me, I bought that giant PS4 collection they did when once Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. So that's like the all-in-one collection of everything on PlayStation. But yeah, so yeah, Christian, let me throw it over to you because I mean, we're all huge fans here. But yeah, I know you're a huge fan. So tell me about some of your history with the series.
Yeah, I started later than Brandon. I jumped in high school, probably my senior year, junior year, after Kingdom Hearts 2 had come out. There were some friends in like my media class, and they had like the strategy guide for it, and the just the art as I was looking over like their shoulder, like just looked really cool. Like the character designs, like I've never seen Donald and Goofy look angsty and emo next to these anime characters. And in high school, I was already full on into anime and everything, and so I was just like really interested. What is this? And I saw it was Kingdom Hearts 2. Okay, well, then what's Kingdom Hearts 1? And it was a while before I finally got into the games. When I say a while, I mean it's just later that year. What I mean is that like I took like baby steps, like what is this? Okay, it's Disney and Final Fantasy. Didn't even play that many I was familiar with Final Fantasy, but like hadn't like finished any of the games then either. But I just got really interested because I saw like we had like Halloween Day, and like one of my friends dressed up as Kyrie, and I'm like, oh, I recognize this character. And so just little by little, finally the curiosity got the best of me, and I'm like, all right, let me dive in. And so finally picked up 1. And I did play Chain of Memory. I know, yeah, I did play Chain of Memories before 2, which I know a lot of people just jump from 1 to 2.
I did.
Yeah, which I mean, actually, like, I'm starting to second guess myself. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm like, wait, did I? I feel like I did, but regardless, I just from then on played all the games, regardless if they were on like uh, DS or PSP. Like I remember like being I just have this anecdote real quick that I'll share is that like I was so excited for Birth by Sleep, which was the next title after Kingdom Hearts 2, that I don't know if you all remember the PSP Go,
Oh yeah.
which was the digital only PSP, and it like had a slide up kind of screen. I got that and I was so excited. I'm like, hey, this digital only PSP, this is gonna be my ticket to playing Birth by Sleep early, because when it comes out in Japan, maybe it'll be on the PS Store in Japan, and so I got this PSP Go, and so I'll just be able to get on through the PlayStation Network. And it wasn't like that; they didn't put it for sale on the network. So I was like, okay, I gotta import it anyway. So uh, I just always like from then I've always like tried to get in early like on the titles. So again, I imported Birth by Sleep. I very coincidentally happened to be in Japan when 358 over 2 came out. So I went to a game store and played it while I was on vacation, and just have loved the series because I love the fantasy of it, the emo-ness of it, the anime-ness of it. Just like it just speaks to all the things that I like, and it's in a really cool fantasy package.
No, yeah, definitely. Um, Cam, what about you? What's your history with the series?
Well, I feel like I'm like, man, I don't have a lot of my like physical media when it comes to like to show off my fandom. But then I remembered I did spend um a like an almost embarrassingly an obscene amount of money on this custom PlayStation
Ooh.
Oh
4.
wow,
Very
Um
nice.
that's a beautiful
uh
console.
it is honestly the most gorgeous thing I own. Um like and also like it came with like this like you can't really see the details otherwise I just would have shown this off, but this is like the PS4 controller for it. The inlays for it are like just outright gorgeous. Like the design of it is just like it truly is an incredible thing. And so this was the Kingdom Hearts 3 special edition that I literally imported from Japan because they sold, I think it was GameStop got the exclusive rights to it in the US, and there was two allocated to every single GameStop. And as it would turn out, there was no prohibition on managers from buying it themselves, and so every single GameStop,
Just
bought.
immediately sold out.
Yeah, it was sold out the moment that it came out. So there was no way anybody really could get it in the U.S. And so
No,
I spent. Hmm?
it's a gorgeous looking console there. That special edition, really intricate design. It just there's this new kind of aesthetic that in the last couple games they've been adopting is like this really uh, floral, regal, really intricate, like just like gorgeous designs in it. And so it was really eye catching, and so that's really cool that you were able to snag that. You know.
Yep. When Wario64 said, "Hey, if anybody wants to spend a ludicrous amount of money on Amazon.jp for a one, they're selling them there," and I said, "You know what? I'm not the
Do
kind of
you?
person. I don't buy special edition stuff. I don't like, Trevor's the guy who owns like 3 versions of every console that's ever existed. He has like 6 PS4s that he's gotten in the past. Granted, he's bought enough PS5s to justify that, considering he's bought one for just about each of us. Um, not as gifts, like we paid him back, of course, but he has a knack for getting these consoles when they're rare, and so so like I like this is the one thing that I was just like I'm gonna spend the money on it, and it's something
Yeah,
I
treat
care
yourself.
about. Yeah, like I love Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts to me is one of the best franchises that's ever existed. People The problem with people like, oh, it's so complicated. It's like it's not as complicated as long as you don't get lost in the sauce of it. Because it's simple. It's just melodrama. As long as you understand melodrama, it's like, well, what is the key? It's like that doesn't matter. Like, what is the dark? It doesn't matter what the darkness is. Like, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is it's a melodrama, so these things are bigger than larger than life. It's not complicated. It's a eternal war between light and darkness, and the only thing that can save the world of light is a 14-year-old kid named Sora. Like, that's it. That's that simple. It's like, what about the Disney? It's like, the Disney stuff is just to get you to buy in. It doesn't actually matter. What about the Final Fantasy? It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Stop getting hung up on that stuff. But I remember back, so my history with it, sorry to get off tangent there, but my history with Kingdom Hearts goes back to the preview in Electronic Gaming Monthly, EGM, where they brought up this thing, and this is, of course, like the origin of the legend of Kingdom Hearts, which is Square Enix, or Squaresoft at the time, shared an office building with Disney Japan, and in an elevator pitch was, hey, what do you think about a crossover? And the guy from Japan, the Japanese Disney executive, said, that's a cool idea. Let's go get drunk and we'll talk about it. And
that's how deals get done in Japan.
Yeah, that's how deals get done in Japan. So like right afterwards, they went out to eat and get drinks, and eventually they kind of like hammered out kind of like this like general idea, and Nomura got put in charge of like designing and directing it, because he was fresh off of, gosh, I want to say he was fresh off of doing the overall designs for Final Fantasy X, and like doing like character and story design for like Final Fantasy X. So he got put in charge of Kingdom Hearts, and like the rest is history. Like, it's just such a, and I remember reading it in EGM and being like, I'm like 12 or 13, I was like 11 or 12, and I was like, Final Fantasy and Disney, that's dumb. That's gonna fail. That sounds, I remember exactly, I used a term that we don't use anymore these days, the R word. We don't use that anymore. But at the time, I very liberally called it that. And then I saw the scores that came out in EGM, and I said, there is no way they're giving this game like a 9 and a 10. Like, what's going on here? And they're like, the Disney stuff is awesome in it. And I'm like, my little like 11-year-old edgelord brain was just like, not possible. So I rented it from Blockbuster, and sure enough, it's one of the greatest games of all time. An incredible timeless classic of a game. And so ever since then, I've been on board. I like Chain of Memories came out a couple years later. I remember the getting to see a cutscene on the level of like a PS2 level cutscene, having that embedded into Chain of Memories, was insane. And then on top of that, just the absolute game. Like, honestly, I'm gonna say it, like, the original Chain of Memories gameplay on the GBA is like almost unparalleled in how good it is. The ability to use the card and deck building system, in addition to just overall just like really cool stuff, and like it was just such an awesome system, and it was so cool, and I 100% ripped it off. Like, I 100% played the ROM, because I never owned a Game Boy Advance. So I played it on the computer illegally. Granted, I do own it now, so it's fine. Can't come after me, Square. Deal with it. Like, you can't stop me.
Statute of limitations is up. You're good.
Yeah. No, I remember being like a kid, just like being like there's no way I can convince my parent. Like, my dad was a teacher, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. Like, there was no money for these things, and so, and everybody's like, well, why didn't you ask for it for your birthday? It's like, man, for my birthday, I got socks. Like,
these, use them every day. Socks, daily use.
I still get socks every year for my birthday and Christmas, because my family knows I won't buy them for myself. But yeah, no, like I love Kingdom Hearts. I love just everything about the series. I think that it is I cried no less than probably 30 times on the last like hour of Kingdom Hearts 3, and then did it all over again for 3.1 when the DLC dropped for it. like the culmination and execution of the things that people actually care about in this series is just done so masterfully, and I love it, and I'm so excited for what comes next, because what we've seen and what we've gotten. I mean, the last time I talked about Kingdom Hearts, I was talking to Christian, I think, for that conversational podcast we did. We talked about
the finale.
The finale of
Union Cross.
Yeah. And the revelations of that were insane, and just
which we're finally seeing in these, which we'll get to it eventually. The announcements that came out for this 20th anniversary celebration are picking up where that left off.
Mm-hmm. And it's just so exciting. So that's kind of like my history with it. I've been with it since not like launch date, but with Kingdom Hearts 1. I've been with it since then, and and this is a fun thing. I didn't realize how complicated or stuck on like Kingdom Hearts people were. Like, I didn't realize that people made fun of it until like much later. And I was like, so I've always been like an apologist, and I don't understand why it's so hard, difficult, guys. Like, come on.
It's just the meme of it. People just want something to meme on. Anything is only as complicated as you're willing to make it, and you know.
Exactly.
I you know, if I hadn't seen all the Marvel movies, I could just say like, oh, these Avenger movies don't make sense, you know. But like, whose fault is that? It's like, it's my fault for like, even if I didn't want to take the time to watch all the in between movies, like there's Wikipedia, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's explainers out there. IGN. Here's all the Marvel movies in 10 minutes or something like that, you know. If anyone wants to understand it, you know, there's a way, you know.
The game trailers retrospectives, voiced by now retired Brandon Jones, should be enough for just about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and those are great, because I've even checked those out for myself, because it is where I come in from it. Like, I started with Kingdom Hearts 1 back in the day. To be honest, it was so long ago, I don't even know where I had like heard about it or got a hold of that. It might have even just been because there was like Disney characters in it. But because I just always remember having Kingdom Hearts 1, but what I distinctly remember a lot more is like an earlier memory is being so excited for Kingdom Hearts 2. And I had a GamePro magazine that had like that was like the cover, and it was them on this like parade float. And I swear I read that thing just like over and over and over. Like, I was like, man, Kingdom Hearts 2, I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. And I mean, it was, especially because it's funny how like at that point I had never even finished the first game. Like, I played it a lot, but I always like being a younger gamer at the time. It's like I struggled to like get through parts of it,
It's an
especially
RPG.
like
There's a meaty, you know, 40 to whatever hour. Yeah.
yeah. I was bad at RPGs for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Go
like,
ahead,
let's also be totally fair. Not the most intuitive. Like, it is a 3D action RPG from a company that traditionally only does like turn-based and like menu-based RPG stuff. So when it comes to it, it is a foray into early 3D action RPG technology, and not technology, but like techniques, and like they are building from the ground up on that. And the transition from 1 to 2 shows how much they learn. But 1 is and always has been a bit of a rough spot when it comes to the technology and the system that they were using at the time. And it's not easy. It's not always easy. It's especially because Donald Duck will fucking Kuraga himself the moment he gets even a smidge of HP, and then you have to wait for him to like recharge his MP because he just blew everything on a Kuraga on himself.
I always
Like,
wish
it's
to
not-
and
The game
Yeah.
the game just does not. It's not always easy.
no, to that point too, there was a classic moment when I was playing the PlayStation versions, because that was when I finally on PS4 is the first time I actually beat 1 for the first time, and I in the lead up to 3 I was going through them. But Christian was there at one point with me as I was playing through a little bit of it, and I definitely made that joke every time. It's like, oh hey, you can have Beast as a party member or whoever else, and I'm like, yeah, Donald, get out of my party. I'm always immediately, I'm like, out of my party. I don't want you in here.
Know who's great about using his skills wisely? Goofy.
Yeah,
Goofy.
you
know
can come in
who's a
clutch.
great know who's a great party member? Goofy. Know who doesn't like just waste anything that like waste potion. Know Know who is smart about when he uses his potions and will use it on you when you are critical and need help? Goofy. Not you, Donald. Like,
Goofy is my favorite little. It's a recurring joke. Like if you really pay attention to the dialogue in each game he shows up, he always is saying like, "Hey, isn't it weird that this and that?" And like sometimes the characters will like blow it off, and I'm like, "No, he's like right on the money." Like
Oh, yeah.
everything Goofy says, he says it like second guessing, like, or I could be wrong or something like that. But I'm like, no, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's the secret genius, and I think it's a recurring. I think it's the writers being like tongue in cheek, like, hey, his name is Goofy and he's supposed to be dumb, but like, isn't it funny that he's always like right on the money with everything he says? Like, that's one of my favorite little recurring things I've noticed in the writing.
Well, it's the same thing with Donald. Donald just gets so caught up in how great he is. Like, here's a outside of that, I love Donald, especially like from Chain of Memories forward, or really the end of Kingdom Hearts 1 forward. Donald is just such a great party member because he's such a tsundere. Like, and what I love is that nobody believes him, and when he's like, I don't really like quack quack quack, I don't really care about this, and everybody's like, oh, for sure, Donald, you don't care about it. Mm-hmm. And it's always great because it's just they're like Donald and Goofy. When you're like, wow, why did you pick those two characters? I mean, they're so iconic, and there's just such great characters to have alongside you on a journey. It's just fantastic. And also, let's be very clear up front here. It is canonical. Donald is the most powerful magical character in the entirety of the Final Fantasy franchise. There is no ifs or buts about it. Trevor's going to be here. What about Tello?
What about into it? But we won't.
We won't get into it. But this is the fact. Donald Duck is the most powerful mage to have ever existed in any franchise of Final Fantasy.
Frank, were you going to say a bit more about?
Yeah, so to wrap up my history with it too, like
sorry.
so then I loved. No, I mean it's a free form conversation. But yeah, like I ended up I was super excited for two. I ended up playing and loving two, and I played way more of that, and I even think I might have even finished that before again even ever going back to one, which I'm sure a lot of people are like that's insane, but it was just like more fun at the time. But then for me,
Oh,
even after that, like I'm a big fan of the series, but I'm also kind of a guy that like has fallen out of the series over time too. Like as they were doing all of these like side games, like the like Birth by Sleep and Chain of Memories and like even later with like Dream Drop Distance and the stuff on 3DS. Like I never owned a 3DS, so like I didn't have a chance to get through like a ton of those. But I definitely kind of came back in the lead up to Kingdom Hearts 3 because in the like the year or two before that, I kind of started playing through all of the games on PS3 and then eventually PS4 when they started porting them over. And then that's even when I kind of not only rediscovered how much I definitely really loved one and two. I got to play a lot of those awesome kind of side games that I had missed. Like I really enjoyed Dream Drop Distance. Like I thought, like I was surprised because I was like, oh, it's like a 3DS game or whatever, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually really fun. I like that like with the handheld versions, they tend to pull like weirder, more niche Disney worlds, which I think is like pretty cool because there's even like in that game there's a Three Musketeer world,
Oh yeah,
and
mm-hmm.
yeah.
and I'm like that's cool that like we get to just see like more niche things that like they wouldn't necessarily put in like a mainline title.
What's awesome about the Three Musketeers world in Dream Drop Distance is it's also like a cool look at the origin of King Mickey.
Yeah,
Because
which is cool where they kind
yeah,
of frame it. Yeah, that like Mickey did all these things prior to being King Mickey.
he is named king to become king, and you get to see kind of like you see what people saw in Mickey that inspired them to support him to become king, and you get to see like Donald and Goofy, like you get to see the formation of the three of theirs friendship, and that directly tie like it's cool to see, especially for Sora, to kind of see like where his friends started, and because like the kind of premise is Donald and Goofy are adults who are are tracking down initially and following this 14-year-old kid. Like they themselves are not teenagers; they're adults, and they're like quasi 20s, whatever the anthropomorphic equivalent is for that. But like it's cool to see them younger and like having kind of different like a little bit of variations of their personality, and it's like, and that's just cool. We also get to see like we get to experience like a for real Pinocchio that is not
Yeah.
like just Morpho. Yeah, no, it's great. I also agree. Dream Dog Distance is up there for me as well. The Dream Eaters also are all adorable, and I love them, and I would die for them. And then when you also, oh my gosh, when you find out the, sorry, I almost started tearing up because I'm like, oh, also I know like we know the history and origin of like what the Dream Eaters actually are, and people need to play the mobile games, all right? People need to just play the mobile games. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I think that pretty much wraps up kind of our histories with it. Does anybody have any final thoughts before we move into the reactions?
No, just that it's been really fun journey, and I guess the last thing I'll add is that like I do have two younger siblings. My brother is 3 years younger than me. My sister is 10 years younger than me. And families come in all kinds of varieties. Some people connect over a lot of things, and some people don't connect at all. And I've just been personally very fortunate that even though both my siblings haven't finished all the games, the ones that they have played resonated with them enough to that like it's something we can connect on connectively. When it's Christmas time or birthday time, we get each other some sort of Kingdom Hearts related thing, eraser, pencil, whatever. It's something that it's just been cool, like having this thing that I really enjoyed that I can also really share with my siblings too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Um, and yeah, so I think that well, we can pretty much just move into kind of our reactions for some of the announcements and the trailers that recently dropped. I think we're mainly going to focus on Kingdom Hearts 4, but like I said before we recorded, if anybody has anything they want to throw in about Missing Link, or thoughts or excitement on that, yeah, please by all means. But yeah, so I'm gonna throw it over to you, Christian, first. What was your reaction to the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer? Oh, and before that too, I'll throw out there, you actually recorded your reaction to the
Oh yeah,
trailer, and I'll drop the link for that in the YouTube description for the
thanks,
video as well. But
appreciate
yeah,
it.
so yeah, tell us what'd you think?
Well, the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer came in as like a third trailer in a 7 minute long video that had two smaller trailers before it. And a lot of people, and there's no judgment, I'm just saying, a lot of people really were excited to see just number 4. But because I love the story so much, I was almost as equally interested in the first two trailers. So I'll touch on those first real
Yeah,
quick.
go ahead.
The first trailer you see in the 7 minute video is the finale chapter for a mobile game spin-off called The Dark Road, which is a mobile. It's like a side story within the whole Union Cross universe. It takes place during that. Oh, not during that timeline, but it's part of the same circle. And those mobile games have these missions, and then you'll get every now and then, every couple months or longer, you'll get these story missions that actually, gives cutscenes that expand on the lore. And the first trailer in that 7 minute video is like the finale for the Dark Road storyline, which is just a bit more on like Xehanort growing up and Xehanort, I'm gonna talk throughout this podcast as if some people aren't familiar with Kingdom Hearts, so I won't deep dive, but I'll give a little bit of context. Xehanort is the big bad for all the Kingdom Hearts games so far, and the Dark Road Saga is him as a student when he's still good, learning for himself to become a Keyblade Master. And it's kind of like if we got the Phantom Menace, not even just the prequel trilogy, but if we just got Phantom Menace in like smaller chunks, And so it's cool to see, well, how does this story end? And so I was really excited to see, and we got a lot of look at characters who we've only heard about. A lot of the mystery in the Dark Road story is there's kind of a Keyblade Academy, to use words that people would understand, and like a lot of the senior students are missing. They were on, their big final mission to kind of before becoming Keyblade Masters, and they're all gone missing. And a lot of the story of Dark Road is Xehanort trying to find out what's up with that, and a lot of them started showing up in the trailer. So I'm really excited to see where did they disappear to. And we never see them in future games, spoilers. We never see any of these characters except for like one or two in the future games. So I'm really excited to see where have they been, why were they missing, and why do they become missing again? Because again, we don't see them in any of the future games. So, really excited for that. And Missing Link is the game that it's a new mobile game that it's going to be a 3D action and with some multiplayer elements. And so like what I really like about for myself on Missing Link was one, customizable Keyblade characters. I love customizable stuff, and so like when you and that was part of the mobile game too. But like the mobile games have been like 2D, which has its own charms and appeal. But I think getting to play in a more 3D action environment is a bit more player friendly. So the customizable characters, and also like what I really am excited for is we're picking back off in Missing Link where where Union Cross ended. Pretty much a cataclysmic event happens at the end of Union Cross, and one of the characters is kind of catapulted forward in time, and we're picking back up where they left off and what adventure they'll be going on. So I'm really looking forward to that. And this is going to shed a little, as far as lore goes, this is going to kind of bridge the gap on like Union Cross happened like thousands of years before Kingdom Hearts 1. So what's some of the story that happened in between that time, you know? I think a comparison I could make, a lot of people, even if they didn't play these games, they're familiar that, you know, Knights of the Old Republic and things like that are Star Wars stories from years and years ago before A New Hope. And so imagine if there was a game series that, you know, filled in some of those gaps. Like that's how I feel about Missing Link. So I'm really excited for that. Go ahead. Does anyone want to talk about? If y'all want to talk about Dark Road or Missing Link before we jump into Kingdom Hearts 4.
I was about to suggest we do that. Yeah, no, 100%. Christian, you and I, we reacted to the finale of Union Cross together. It was truly magnificent and special because it gave us answers to questions we didn't even know that we had. And it did such an amazing job of like also the character customization for Union Cross was awesome, to the point where like one of my favorite Keyblades of all time is the Union Cross original Keyblade. Just it's so awesome, and the fact that you can get it in Kingdom Hearts 3 at one point is incredible. But like my history with Union Cross is back when it was just Kingdom Hearts Union. Like there is a specific cutoff in time frame and timeline wise where if you did something before a certain point in time, your name was added to a list of literally like millions of people. And there's a scene in Kingdom Hearts 3 where if you are on that list of people, your name shows up. And I'll never forget the moment when I saw my OG username pop up in Kingdom Hearts 3, and just the memories that I have of that. So like Union Cross for me is just such an awesome and incredible story that gets told over time and that you can experience now. Even like it's great that you can just hop in and just experience this awesome story just from beginning to end. And Dark Road specifically was announced and picked up right after Union Cross, and kind of like was dealing with like the origins of Xehanort. And you get to see kind of like Xehanort go from just being like a very good young man to kind of like where his journey takes him through what we get to see in Kingdom Hearts like proper. And we get to see like the origins of this very complex character who makes choices and decisions that are altruistic in nature, altruistic in origin, but in their nature is choosing like it's the wrong choice. It's the bad choice.
I see a lot of comparison, and it's not one for one, but again, to speak to broader audiences out there who maybe aren't familiar, like the thing about Xehanort is that, you know, I think a lot of newcomers to the series who start learning about his story might see a little bit of comparison between him and Thanos. Is in everything Thanos does is horrible. You know, he's a Titan and a terrible person and genocidal and everything. But when you learn a bit about him, you don't sympathize with him, but you understand the motivations behind it. And Xehanort's very similar. He's, you know, tormented kids and caused so much darkness and terrible destruction. But as you learn a bit about him, you, again, not to sympathize with him, but you understand that there's something behind it other than just he's a, you know, mustache twirling villain.
Yeah, he has deep motivations that are very logical. But like, this is a great way, and we are seeing kind of like the breakdown in his relationships because of his decisions are coming to kind of a head in this last chapter, and it's very exciting to see. And I love that. I love that we're seeing with that. Missing Link for me is great because it's just awesome to see. Honestly, anything we get with Scalia Al Calam or Cadam, I can't remember how to pronounce it. Scalia is just what I end up calling it. Anything we get to see, yeah, anything we get to see with that place, more of that place is just awesome. I'm 1000% here for it. It is one of like the coolest places that's ever been designed as a world, and we've gotten so little of it, and getting to anything we can do to see more of it, I'm there for it. It's great. I'm excited for more. I didn't
touch on it, but the whole Missing Link looks to be taking place primarily in this world that was just barely introduced in Kingdom Hearts 3, and you do see a bit more of it in Dark Road and stuff, but like we'll actually get to play considerable amount in this world that, and because it takes place hundreds of years before Kingdom Hearts 1 or before 3 even, it's still in development. It's not the full. When you see it in Kingdom Hearts 3, it's after it's already been established and been lived in and everything. But from the look of the trailer, this looks like it's still early stages of Scala, when it's still work in progress, I think.
Yeah, it's only 100 years after the establishment of it, which happens after the Keyblade War. So, like, this is literally, like, for people who don't know, this is this is like if you played the Old Republic MMO, this is like Typhon. This is the world of the Keyblade Master. Like, people here are like Christian mentioned.
It's Keyblade capital.
Yeah. Christian mentioned there's the Keyblade Academy that's teaching Keyblade users. There's this entire new civilization made up of a singular Keyblade organization that is going out and trying to do right. It's super cool. I can't wait to get into Missing Link. A lot of it because of also story elements that we are going to get kind of answered in regards to some, like, one of the characters that got propelled through time, and it's just kind of like was left on a real cliffhanger at the end of Union Cross. So getting to kind of see like his story and like where that leads through for him, I'm very excited for. And also it looks like we're going to have some reappearances of Luciu, who's one of the missing masters from Union Cross. Looks like we're in for a big old treat of a lot of cool stuff coming up, and including like Nomura teased and gave a brief revelation of who one of the characters was that shows up at that very like big cliffhanger, because everybody's been speculating for a couple years now about who that was, and we have an answer for it now. It's a new character, and that was kind of like teased and revealed in the release, in the trailer. So that's been super cool. I'm super pumped. I can't wait. Also, like Christian said, customizable Keyblade characters. Yes, please. Let me do it again. I had such a great time with it. I'm super stoked for it. I can't wait for more.
And I don't know if either of y'all two have anything to say on these two trailers, but in case y'all don't, I just want to also add that I'm not very familiar with if Cam, you actually played through all of Union Cross and Unchained Key and all of those, but speaking for myself, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like mobile games, or I don't like the combat. I know when Union Cross came out, or it was either Unchained Key or Union Cross, I think Tim Geddes of Kind of Funny gave like a brief little kind of like conversational review about it, and he was like, hey, yeah, it's cool, like this is how I felt about it, here's my impressions, but obviously didn't play through the whole thing. And yeah, like mobile games just aren't for some people, and me as like I consider myself a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, like the combat was cool, it was a kind of a cool game, but there's only so much time in a day, and again, like you're playing hundreds of missions before you get to a story point, and I personally didn't have that kind of time in a day. So again, the things are only as complicated as you're willing to make them, and I wanted to know the story, and there are just so many YouTube channels out there that give you great summaries of like, here's everything you need to know about Union Cross, about Dark Road. So again, before I bump it to y'all, I just want to plug out there's a really great channel called Damo. If you just look up Damo, Union Cross or Unchained Key or Dark Road or anything like that, he has really comprehensive explanations that like they're just really entertaining. Like they're only like the explanations are only an hour long, but sometimes he's even just like, hey, I've taken everything in this mobile game series and just taken the most important cutscenes and put them together in like a 6 hour thing. So you've got your long form ones, like the 6 hour videos, and you've also got the 1 hour ones that you could listen to as a podcast if you wanted. But like there are, if you are interested, it's one of the best stories in the Kingdom Hearts is this mobile game. And so again, I'm telling you right now, I didn't play through. I played a few chapters, and after that, I just resorted to getting the story through these explainers, and I still feel as connected as anyone who's actually played the stories, like through the actual gameplay. And the same thing with Missing Link. I'm gonna give Missing Link a shot, but if it turns out that there's a lot of like missions before you have to get the story, then I'm gonna be straight up. I'm just gonna watch Damo's explanation. So again, Damo Kingdom Hearts, and you'll find some awesome explanations. And he's actually teased recently that he's going to be doing kind of a fan dub. He has explained it now. He's gonna like get, because there's no voices for the 2D Union Cross games, and so he's actually gonna start doing kind of a fan dub where he gets actors to give their voice to some of these characters. So that's even more accessible. So definitely check Damo Kingdom Hearts if you want to get caught up on the story, because it's gonna be quite a while before we play. The beta I think is August, or if not later. So yeah, there's still time to check out those explainer videos.
100%. Yeah. I, as somebody who played through I played up through the special mission. Yeah. I played up through that point, and then when kind of like the next saga of Union Cross started, I did not keep up with that, and so
it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, and so I ended up going back and watching Damo's all of the cutscenes for that section, and then to get ready for and then like of course watching the end and conclusion of it through what he was doing with that, and then of course I've gone back and played through the beginning parts of that, but like there's only so much time in a day. But yeah, if you're interested at all and you just like don't have the time for it, the like long cutscene ones, like the 6 hour videos, are extremely cool. And the fact that he's now doing like wanting to go back and do fan dubs to kind of make it even more accessible to people is awesome. It's so great. The story, even the combat systems of it have been super awesome and great. And I can't express enough how much I truly treasure this part of the game. One of my favorite things actually was Easy Allies. Huber was just like, I have played through, because we'll talk about it in the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, but like I have played all the games and I don't know who this character is, and the reply is from one of his coworkers, Brad Ellis, who goes, it's from the mobile game. And then and the Huber's response is, God damn it. Like just like what do you mean? It's great.
It's a way that all us Kingdom Hearts fans who are caught up with today with the story, we all accept like we admit it's really crazy that the craziest, coolest story is on a very inaccessible platform, but
and has nothing to do with Sora.
You guys?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with how much y'all know about the mobile games, but like just seeing, I'm assuming y'all at least saw that parts of the trailers. Just what.
So I just want to throw in, like I'll link to in the YouTube description as well to the Demos channel that you mentioned, so people can check that out if they're curious. But I want to throw it over to Brandon real quick. I want to pull you back in. Do you have any thoughts on these sort of mobile games and the trailers that we saw?
So going in order of the full 7.5-minute presentation that we had, starting with Dark Road. Well, I should actually really start with Union Cross, because I tried playing it. I remember downloading it, and then it took forever to get on my phone. And finally, when it got on my phone, I started going through the tutorial, and it says, oh, well, you have to go through this other download. And it was just a hassle, and I just... so at that point, I'm like, no thanks. But when they discontinued the service, they put all the cutscenes within the app. I did put that on my phone. And then I found out, Dark Road is going to be free once they do all the story segments. And now that we know that it's going to be 4 months from now, I'm like, okay, cool. So I've been holding off just watching all the cutscenes and everything that's Union Cross and Dark Road related until it all comes out. So this coming August, I'm really looking forward to that. But beyond that, I'm not really too concerned with it. So the only real exposure, I guess is the best word for me to put it, that I have with these characters is the back cover movie that's in the 2.8 package. So seeing those five masters and the Master of Masters, who that's like the one character I'm like most fascinated by right now in this current
We all are, man. It's a wild character.
in this current timeline with where we are right now on the precipice of 4. He's the one that I'm the most fascinated with, so I'm very curious to see his future.
He's a real piece of shit.
But as far as Missing Link goes, because again, I've just had terrible luck with mobile. It's just not the platform for me. I don't know if I will give it a try. I might. There are some things with the UI and how it looks that, and stick with me here, it kind of looked like Pokemon Go in the sense that there could be some exploratory element to it where you might have to go walk around. If that is or is not the case, I'm neither here nor there on it. But if it is something that is a little bit more involved than just something that I can do on my couch just mindlessly, then it's something like, as you said, Christian, I might have to go to Damo's channel and just kind of get myself caught up with Missing Link specifically. But as far as that specifically is concerned, that's kind of one I'm less interested in because the main event we'll get into here in a few moments, that is kind of what is occupying my mind for a lot right now. So
Yeah, and then uh, yeah, and then even on my end, I'm kind of with Brandon a little bit, where like I tried to play the mobile game. I think it was Union back then. It might have been Missing Link, but it was at a PAX, like, and so I didn't even download it on my
Oh,
own
I
phone,
remember.
but
Yeah.
they were
Oh, dude, you brought me back posters. I'm still so thankful.
uh,
You brought me some really
Oh,
cool
I remember
like
that.
Kingdom Hearts posters. Yeah, from when they were promoting. Yeah, the mobile game in itself has several quote unquote seasons. If you think of seasons of TV kind of thing, like
Mm-hmm.
here's this part of the story and that part. They were promoting the new. Okay, here's a new part of the story where we're introducing new characters, and those are the posters you brought back. And so it makes sense that you ran into it at some conventions. Yeah.
That was actually a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
fun. I remember that when you got those posters too, because that's when they had like the Kingdom Hearts booth at the Square Enix, sorry,
Mm,
the Kingdom Hearts display stuff over at the Square Enix booth at PAX East, I think it was,
mm,
and that was just a blast. That was so cool. Also, because I got to that thing that I mentioned earlier. When I told that to one of the guys working there, he stopped me and was like, "You did what? You saw what?" I was like, "Yeah, like it happened." He goes, "You are like literally like the coolest person I've ever met." It's like I've never had this experience before, but it's pretty great. Like like king of the mountaintop for the nerds. Love it. It's been great. No, it's that was such a fun event, and that was such a fun booth and everything. Um, and those posters were rad, and I was jealous that Christian got them.
yeah, no, because I remember that because that was a cool booth, and it was cool to see all the Kingdom Hearts stuff, and that they kind of then that's when I kind of showed up and I checked that out. And I'm not like kind of like Brandon said, I'm not a huge mobile game guy, and like so that was the only time I kind of checked it out. And I mean, I had fun, but it was one of those things where I think even talking to Christian, he even let me know like how grindy the real kind of game almost becomes, and like that's something I definitely can't hang with myself. But so I even then went to watching the story recaps on YouTube, and I'm not quite sure which ones I watched or from who, because I think it was more of like a person kind of going through the story and recapping it rather than just like watching all the cutscenes. And at that point, the story wasn't even. This was around the time 3 came out, either a little bit afterwards or a little bit before. I think it was before because I think I was getting caught up. So the story wasn't even done. So that there's a point where it hits, and I don't even know what happens after that. I've been meaning to go back and get caught up. Besides some of the things I've kind of heard through the grapevine. Um, so that's definitely something I'll have to do, especially because it seems like, with not only with Missing Link coming out in Dark Road, it's like it also seems like those mobile game elements are getting to get pulled into Kingdom Hearts 4, where we'll kind of talk about that a little bit later too. But yeah, the one last thing I want to throw in for Missing Link at least, I thought that actually looked pretty cool, especially for like a mobile game. Like the fact that it is full 3D and it is actually some of that actual like genuine Kingdom Hearts combat. I'm kind of excited about because the where Union was just more kind of like that like turn based or kind of like it was like that 2D and you were just kind of like playing it that way. The fact that they're like, hey, we're going to try to pull in the like real kind of Kingdom Hearts friend or like gameplay and put it in here. It reminded me of almost like what we would have seen on like a PSP or like a Vita back in the day. And so like I think that looks super cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and more approachable. Like I gave Union Cross kind of a fair shake, but like I'm a boomer, you know. I'm 34, I'm 35, so like even just moving around the world was a little tricky. Like, wait, why isn't he going where I want him to go, you know? But now there's like I think with in a 3D kind of game, like that should be a bit more easier. I'm sure there's even peripherals I could get that I could play it on my phone, quote unquote, but like have a controller or some kind of peripheral that would let me uh, play it similarly to like as if it was like on console or something.
Yeah, yeah. And there's definitely a lot of those options out there now, which is cool from like Bluetooth controllers or even like the stuff like the backbone that you can kind of like snap around your controller or your phone and kind of give it those like handheld ends. Does anybody have any last thoughts on the mobile stuff before we move on?
I'm set.
Just again, I'll try to provide as much resources as I can, and yeah, like if anyone isn't familiar with me, you can find me on Twitter at PixelBrave. I'm sure I'll plug it again at the end, but the only reason I bring it up now is that like just in general, I think I'm so excited for four that I won't, and I know leading up to three, a lot of people on YouTube that I live on the YouTube, were playing through the games for the first time, and so I'm sure we'll see another wave of that again in leading up for four, and it was cool seeing a lot of people playing three being like, oh, I just barely caught up like with these explainers, and I think we'll see more of that leading up to four. So like I'll reach out to me in a DM or something if you want to learn more about Unchained Key or Missing Link or Dark Road, and I'll do my best to give you like here are my favorite explainers, my favorite videos that get people caught up on these stories. Because again, I get it. Like I said at first, you know, like hey, like we don't always have time for these mobile games. They are targeted for a Japanese audience. Of course, they get t- distributed worldwide anywhere because that's how businesses go. But like by nature of like Japan is very like public transport, and so you have the time to just between work and school or whatever to be on your phone and stuff. You know, like it's but it doesn't translate very well here. We're all driving everywhere or walking everywhere or biking and stuff, and so like you know we don't have quite the same amount of free time to be grinding, and so. But yeah, fortunately, there's a big fandom out there that wants this story to get out there and to be experienced, you know, in one way or another. So reach out to me. I'll be your mobile game Kingdom Hearts guy.
I mean, I might even have to hit you up about that of just like, hey, what which ones do you recommend so I can get
Yeah,
caught up? Because
for
I've
sure.
been meaning to, anyways, because I wanted to know the story, and then now that it seems like it's getting more relevant or like more into the main plot line, I'm like, now I got to know, you know. So yeah, then I think I'll kick it over to you, Cam. Well, how do you? What was your reaction to the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, and how did you feel about that?
dude, I woke up to go use the bathroom that morning, and like getting back, hopping into bed, and like flipping on my phone just to like just to see what's up, anything happening, at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and just seeing like Twitter, like I saw the first couple of tweets like about it, and I said, "What's going on here?" And I click on a trailer and I watch it, and dude, my reactions were like off the chain. I was freaking out on Twitter too. Um, like I flipped. I was just like blown away by what I was seeing. Couldn't believe it was actually happening. Um, you know, expected not to get anything more about this for years, and now we're just already getting something about it, and it's like, expectations wise, just kind of blew me away from what we were seeing, and yeah, I was pumped. I'm still pumped. I'm still thrilled about it. The idea that we are getting a Kingdom Hearts 4, not a Kingdom Hearts 3.5, not a Kingdom Hearts subsection this or that. Like it is straight up just Kingdom Hearts 4. They're using the Unreal Engine that they used for 3 and having improvements on it. When Unreal Engine 5 becomes available to them, they're going to be switching over, which a lot of people are like, oh, they're going to be switching engines. It's a transition from using the prior engine and then having that converted into assets for 5 means that there's going to be a very minimal loss between those engines, and it's going to basically allow them to have a lot more capability. Anybody who's seen any of the Unreal Engine 5, like any of the Unreal Engine 5 tech demos, knows that the leaps and bounds that they're going to get from this, it's going to make their job even easier. Um, it's an awesome moment to kind of like just take in that we are like the end, because they don't have to make their own engine anymore. They're going to be licensing this engine from now on. The biggest issues, especially inter-console generational issues, aren't going to be a problem anymore because they're going to be able to utilize this applicable technology. That's one thing, and I was also like really blown away by like the what they've done since 3 as far as like technological like capability wise when it comes to just basic graphics. Um, to It's the same engine that they're using, but they're just so much better at it already. That even this bare bones kind of trailer that we got has unique characters that are being shown as far as like NPCs, just like general populous characters that make up the world. There aren't duplicates of people. There aren't like these are all in like individual assets that are not being reused. We have that going on. You have particle effects. You have like window smashing and glass shattering and individual glass shards showing up. You have like just the heartless, the kind of like the kind of heartless creature that gets shown up in the trailer is unique in such a more detailed manner than we've seen before. It's great to see this kind of stuff, and then the transition from cutscene to kind of like pseudo gameplay that we saw was awesome, even though it was like 100% not actual gameplay. Because like, guess what? The menu doesn't move, even though it shows up. It's awesome. It's just an awesome thing. I love that we are like it is Sora's, and from the dialogue that we pick up, it's very clear that because of Sora's actions in the DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3, he is on this journey now where he can't go backwards. He has to, and that means that he has to find a new way forward through. What's great about it is like Kingdom Hearts introduced the multiverse to people before they even knew it.
Mm-hmm.
With different worlds, the different worlds are literally just different versions of the world. They're not like, and like when you're breaking through like, you know, gummy ship stuff, you're literally just going through like the barriers in between worlds. And so you're literally like, you can consider that kind of like the quantum zone from Marvel, from Ant-Man and the Wasp, type thing. And then you have, like what we see from that. And so it's been cool to see kind of like a deeper acknowledgement of that. The point now we're getting kind of like we're really digging into it. This is a world of fiction. This is not a like world as we've known it before, which means we're probably going to get a lot more different kinds of worlds that are more conceptual based rather than actually based off of like existing properties, which is cool. But then we also have like the teaser that we got for in Star Wars. The foot of a chicken walker gets seen. Like, I'm so stoked for that. I'm so stoked for like the possibilities that are now here. Because if Nomura can get Disney to let him Let It Go, and use Frozen, and which he had to do in order to use Toy Story, which was, as we all know, like one of the best levels in all of Kingdom Hearts 3, to the point where you have Woody himself tell Xehanort, nobody loves you, and that's why you're a dick, in one of like the best moments of all time. And it's like, it's such a great, I'm so excited to see more of it. We are now officially in the Lost Master arc. Like, this is such a cool, momentous thing, and it's so exciting, and I can't wait for more. And I love this idea of like where Sora's going and what he's doing. And even though a lot of the trailer was like, you know, Nomura will get Versus 13 made no matter what. Come hell or high water, he will get what he wants, and no Square Enix executive can stop him. Nomura's revenge, as Christian put it at the beginning of the podcast. Like, Nomura will get what he wants. Which also be like shout out because like it takes guts, it takes balls like cojones to fucking be like, hey, you know that thing that I teased and I wasn't able to do? I'm doing it here and I'm doing it now and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm going to make it happen. Like,
Well,
shout out.
and then it's funny because people are hyped as hell about it too. So
Oh yeah.
it's like he's like,
100
see, I told you this is what people wanted.
Like, people didn't want what you had in 15. People wanted what I was making in 15, and now we're getting it.
Yeah, so then let me throw it over to you, Brandon. What are some of your thoughts? I know you've been kind of, I think, dying to give some of your thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 4. You've been excited to talk about it. So how are you feel?
So the entire 7.5 minute presentation for about the first 5 minutes, legitimately thought it was a week and a half old April Fool's joke. I literally did not believe it. I saw the thumbnail when I had sat down, turned on my laptop after doing some chores around my apartment, and I saw the thumbnail and kind of looked at it. So I clicked on it, and then the bias of you see what you want to see. So sit here during the Dark Road presentation, seeing some text coming right up to the speech bubble, saying, "Nah, that's a little too messy," and then the edit of the missing link, kind of like. That doesn't really look professional. You just don't want to believe it. You don't want to believe it. And then the actual Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer starts, and I'm like, oh, okay, so Lost Master arc, okay. And then you see the escalator, and then you see the outdoor shot. We can get to that in a minute. But, this looks really great, but okay. The little chess piece looks something like from Kingdom Hearts 3. This could be a fan edit. I really did not start to become a believer until I saw Sora. Until you see him waking up on that, I'm like, that's a different design. Like, he doesn't look like
regular ass feet. With regular people feet.
I don't want to get into the wiki feet levels of hysteria I've seen about that, so I'm just going to leave that alone. But I'm like, okay, who is this person? Mobile game. Okay, I know that for later. And then Quadratum, which if everybody has played the ending of Melody of Memory, and that little lore nugget at the very end of that drops that. It's like, oh, this is what this is. So the secret fight against Yozora at the end of the Remind DLC, that's where this takes place. Okay, and that's somebody else I'm very interested to see. Verum Rex is real. But it's like, okay, I'm more of a believer. And then when when this new version of the Dark Side Heartless just spawns, and seeing what this proof of concept, I'm going to call it, for the combat, and just how big it is. I know we had like huge expansive worlds like Toy Box, like San Francisco, like the Pirates 3 world, but this sparks my imagination. I'm like, okay, this looks really good. This concept of using the Keyblade as a grappling hook to get all over the place. Noctis might have his little warp from 15, but this looks a lot more fluid and a lot more animatic than it in all those other games. So by the time that was over, I just had to get on Twitter. I'm like, okay, no, this is from the real account. This is legit. And then I started freaking out and tagging people like, is this real or not? To paraphrase and quote Kingdom Hearts.
I remember the tweet. Like, is this real, guys?
Like, guys, I'm not freaking out, am I? But yeah, so I went back, rewatched it with that perspective of, okay, I'm a believer now. Let me see all the way from the beginning. So, and the fact that it's 4, as you said earlier, it's not a subtitle. It's not a remaster of a different. No, this is a completely new thing with a completely new arc, which might being in heavy quotation, this is Kingdom Hearts, might be a little bit more friendly for newcomers to just hop in here and move forward. So that's something that's exciting. So I just like consumed it over and over and over. That was a good Sunday for me. So yeah, I'm just so stoked. Granted, this is Square Enix. We're going to wait 5 years, but I just can't wait. It just has my imagination going. What new worlds are we going to? Are we legitimately going to get Star Wars? Are we going to Endor? Are we going to get Marvel? What other new Disney properties? And of course, the stinger at the end. We all agree that's Hades that's confronting Donald and Goofy, right? So yeah. There's all kinds of possibilities.
Well, I think this is my thought on it is like Donald and Goofy are looking for Sora, and so where do they go? Somebody who would know if he's dead or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that would definitely be Hades.
That is definitely that's kind of what I took from it too. And then I even watched like a really in-depth analysis video that somebody put on YouTube that's like 40 minutes long for the 2 minute trailer. And they that it was a great video. I'll put it in the link in the description too. But yeah, that was even what they were kind of touching on, and I definitely think that's kind of where they're going for.
Yeah, but to close
Yeah.
my segment, like I can't wait for it, and I'm really curious because, as I said earlier, knowing Master of Masters, more about him. How does Yozora fit into all this? And all, of course, the all the endings of Kingdom Hearts 3, like you see Sora and Riku, and like real interpretations of what looks like Shibuya, but I think is Quadratum at this point.
It is confirmed that is Quadratum. Which is the Shibuya inspired kind of world that we get at the end. That's also like might have some ties in with the World Ends With You
I
world.
believe he said it's not. I
It's
thought that
not?
was
Okay.
confirmed that it's not. That, at least that's what I heard, and I think that was from Nomura. I think he said it's not. The world ends with you. So I was going to say sorry, Christian.
No, it's I understand. Like, I
It's a 305.
I can talk a bit more about it after Brandon keeps going.
Yeah.
And he could be lying though too.
No,
He's
no, I
just trying
believe
to
you.
throw
No,
us off.
it's not the world ends with you. It's a shame it's not, but like it's fine.
BSR, go ahead, Brandon.
I was right at the very end because the rest of the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3, I'm curious how Maleficent and Pete, what are they doing? Because you kind of see them and then they kind of back away while they're looking at Lucio talking to the four masters that have like come out of nothingness. So like sitting here thinking, what am I watching right now? And I'm still going to think that way even after we beat Kingdom Hearts 4. But I can't wait. There's so much I'm just so excited to see now.
Yeah, so Christian, go ahead. Tell me, what do you think?
Um, Very cool trailer. Thank you. It was this group of guys right here that tagged me to let me know that it had gone live, and I wasn't aware. I mean, I knew the 20th celebration was going on. I knew there was going to be a panel and announcements and stuff, but I didn't think a trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4. I didn't expect that at all. And there were like hints at it. Nomura put out a really elaborate piece of art with 4 frames, and in each frame you've got Sora from Kingdom Hearts 1 holding up a number 1, Sora from 2 holding up a 2, and there was one blank one after the 3, and everyone's like, oh, here's where it's going to be 4, and I'm like, so like, me at most, I was expecting maybe like, and we can't wait to talk about Kingdom Hearts 4. I didn't think we'd actually get a trailer. So I'm very thankful that these group of friends here tagged me and let me know. And yeah, I put out a reaction for it, which you can see. And I wanted to do a lot. I've been a big Kingdom Hearts fan for a long time, but I haven't produced a lot of content other than the podcast and stuff. And when 3 came out, I really wanted to do more of that. I even did like shoot my reaction to playing the whole game, but I didn't edit it, and I might. It's gonna be a long time before 4 comes out, so I might do something with it. But like, I've just always, I'm just camera shy, when it comes down to it. So I don't really do a lot with it. But I was like, well, I mean, with 4, let me do it. So I did and shot my reaction, and it was really fun. Going into the trailer, the only thing I'd only seen 2 things. I saw the thumbnail for the game, which already showed off like Sora in his new, more realistic interpretation. And I did see a tweet with like, "Hey, look, it's possibly an AT-AT or chicken walk. I forget if it's AT-AT or ATST, but
It's
it's
ATST.
Star Wars, yeah, ATST. I saw that, so those were the only 2 things I knew going in. Everything else was fresh, and it was a really cool trailer to see. When you show the quote unquote Endor, like it's like, wow, this is really cool seeing this realistic interpretation. When you see Quadratum, it's like it brings back all the theories of like Verum Rex tied to Versus 13, whether or not it's tied or not to The World Ends With You, which I believe Nomura when he says it's not. The reason why a lot of people, including myself, thought it would be was because first, we do see World Ends With You characters in Dream Drop Distance, and secondly, in the game World Ends With You, they changed the 109 building, which, in real Tokyo, there's a 109 building, and when you see it in World Ends With You, they changed it to 104. And you see that at the end of the secret ending, you see the 104 building. So you think, oh, there's 104 here, there's 104 there, they're the same world. But it really is the equivalent of every fake phone number being 555. That's what it is. At the end of the day, I'm not gonna like if someone wants to still think it's World Ends with You, I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna die on that hill. Like I would be love to be proved wrong, so like I'm not gonna squash your dreams, but I do believe in Nomura that changing it to 104 is just like the phone number equivalent of 555 for the area code. Um, but it doesn't mean that we can't still see those characters. So even if it's not the World Ends with You, it'd still be cool to see Neku and Shiki and all those World Ends with You characters interact with Sora again. Um, but uh, but what is interesting is to see try to look for clues for versus 13 relation, because that is it's debatable how much this is going to be in line with Nomura's vision. A lot of people are saying this is going to be literally versus 13. I'm more on the side of he's going to pick his favorite parts from versus 13 and integrate those. One of the first trailers for versus 13 starts with a quote from William Shakespeare, and it says like, "There's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so." I might be getting the wording wrong, but I think the point of it is that like, good and bad is all about perspective, and I think one of the themes of the Lost Master arc and everything going forward is fantasy or fiction versus reality is a matter of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking about our real world here, us, we recognize pieces of fiction like Kingdom Hearts, Star Wars, Marvel, and even though those aren't quote real worlds, they all have very real implications on us. And these stories affect us. So who's to say what's real and what's not? And so I think a lot of that fun perspective that he likes to have, that a lot of fun storytelling he wants to have with looking at things from different perspective. And there have been interviews where he said like, one of the themes is, Sora comes from a world where everything in Quadratum is fiction, but the people in Quadratum are going to look at everything Sora's experienced in Atlantica and Notre Dame and Beauty and the Beast and look at that as fiction. So it really is, about perspectives. And so, getting back to the trailer, yeah, it was cool seeing Sora. Like again, I saw the thumbnail, but really getting to see him wake up and meet Strelitzia, which was such a really cool moment for me. I mean, it's minor spoilers. I don't think it ruins the story at all. But that red-haired girl, in the mobile games, she was killed. And again, that timeline takes place thousands of years in the past. So it's like if in episode 7 you randomly saw like a character from like Raven or whatever from, I forget the character's name, but like seeing an ancient Sith character show up in like a recent Star Wars movie or something like that. It's just you have so many questions. Well, I thought they died. What is the timeline here? And yeah, it was seeing the dark side, which that's the name of the Heartless. There, you can see in my reaction that the whole time I'm like, okay, I'm seeing a giant monster, but until I see a heart-shaped hole in its torso, like in every other game, it still could be just be some other monster. It could be a Final Fantasy darkness monster. It could be a Versus 13 darkness monster. Until I see that heart-shaped hole in its torso, like I'm still on the fence. And when I finally saw it, I was like, yes, it's real. I don't understand why, because again, without getting too much in the mobile game series, the Master of Masters, which is going to be one of the main antagonists, if not the main antagonist, going forward, he said that this world, Quadratum, is a world of neither light or dark. We've all known that in the Kingdom Hearts universe, all these worlds you're traveling to, it's all about light versus dark. And he said this world here, this Tokyo Shibuya Quadratum, is a world without light or dark. But here we are seeing a Heartless, which now we're starting to ask questions. What is up with that then? If this is a world without dark or light, why is there a Heartless here? So, yeah, just so many new questions to ask myself. And the only disappointment I had was just that we didn't see more of Yozora, which is the character introduced in Kingdom Hearts 3, which is the center of the whole theory of like, no more reintroducing Versus 13 and those story elements, in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you all. I think you guys kind of hit the nail on the head for a lot of how I feel about it. But I thought it was a really awesome trailer. I was kind of like some of you too, were like, because like I knew the event was happening, and I knew people were like, "Are we going to see Kingdom Hearts 4?" And I was like, "No way." Like if it even if it is Kingdom Hearts something something something, like I was like, "There's no way it's just going to be like 4." And when I woke up the next day, because I didn't stay up for the event, but yeah, I woke up the next day and I got on Twitter, and it's just everybody exploding, just being hyped about Kingdom Hearts 4. So then even for me, like I didn't end up watching the full 7 minute thing. I just kind of watched the trailer for 4, and then I went and watched the trailer for Missing Link. but it like the trailer for 4 definitely has me excited. It is one of those funny things where kind of like I alluded to earlier, like sometimes like I kind of become almost like a lapsed fan, or Kingdom Hearts almost goes into the background for me. But then as soon as they put out a trailer for like 4, I'm hyped. I'm right back in, and I swear when the 4 came up at the end, like just got chills, like literally seeing the IV. I'm just like, oh my god, like, and I and then even watching the trailer breakdown that I watched, like that helps kind of bridge some of these gaps for things that I've forgotten about or haven't like or didn't even know from like the mobile game, and even some of their speculation has me like very excited about like what are they going to do and where are they going to go. One of the main things I'm incredibly excited about is the possibility of getting that Star Wars world. Like I think that was one of the moments that got kept getting like screenshotted and people putting like the red circle around the foot and then being like,
Classic.
oh my god, it's Endor. And I like I want to see Star Wars in this world so bad, especially because like I wanted that in 3, but obviously with how long 3 took to develop, and by the time they acquired Star Wars and Marvel, it's like it wasn't just possible to really get those properties in. But that's like what I would. That's what I really want to see is Star Wars and then Marvel. And I, especially with the tease in the video, I have a feeling we'll probably will get Star Wars, but I don't know if Marvel's that like I feel like Marvel's a lot harder to do because with Star Wars, I feel like it's easy to be like, okay, we're just going to put you on Endor at like Return of the Jedi or some other place in the timeline. But with Marvel, it's like, okay, are we going to the comic world? Is it the MCU? Like, who's here? Like, and then I almost worry about like if they just go, okay, it's not the MCU, it's just the Avengers doing something. Then I worry we get into like the Avengers game territory where it's like Uncanny Valley, where people are like, well, this isn't my Avengers. And I mean, honestly, I was even thinking of joking before too, like, what if they put you in the Avengers game? Like, what if that's the tie-in because that's a Square game?
There's so
Uh,
many ways you go about it. Yeah.
yeah, and it's something I'd still love to see, but that Marvel part I think is more complicated, and it would even have me more worried. But I definitely, I'm really hyped for Star Wars, and I really hope we get to see that, whatever that ends up being. Um, and yeah, one of the things I kind of wanted to throw out there too, and even see how y'all feels in the analysis video I watched. One of the things they were speculating on was since we kind of get Donald and Goofy kind of with what we think is Hades, and it makes sense where they're kind of looking for where Sora, where he is. Um, it could be possible that during kind of the times you play as Sora, that you may not have them as your companions. And one of the things they're kind of speculating on is that Yozora could be end up being one of your companions, or even the what was the girl's name? Yeah, that was kind of one of the things that they were pondering is that maybe those will be your two companions for either like the whole game or part of the game. And I think that could be really cool. I kind of like the idea of them mixing it up and kind of changing out like who is in your party or who you might have, or even if you're just solo for a lot of it. Like I think that would even make sense with kind of Sora being lost and kind of having to find his way back. How do you guys feel about that?
I'll wait to see if one of y'all wants to go first before I.
I'll hop in first. Um, man, I love it. I love this idea of this. It reminds me a lot of the Odyssey, from
Hmm.
Plato. The classic tale of Odysseus trying to make his way home after a great war. At the end of the Trojan War, Odysseus has to make his way back home, but he encounters difficulties and trials and tribulations along the way. Makes some right decisions, some wrong decisions. Has to deal with some really terrible stuff, but eventually doesn't make it home. And so I love this idea of Sora has started his own odyssey to get back to where he was at because Sora did some stuff that basically caused him to not like I don't want to spoil Kingdom Hearts 3, so I won't, but like some stuff happens. And
I,
yeah,
I feel comfortable saying like I don't know. I feel like if you're this far in, like I feel like
I'll put it this way. I have
knowing that Darth Vader is Luke's father doesn't ruin Star Wars.
Yeah, but I
Kind of
will
how I look at it.
say that's fair. I will say it like this: at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora is left in a place where he cannot go back to Destiny Islands and back to the other worlds, and so he has to find his way forward to then kind of find a way to circle back around and come back. Because with the things that he does to kind of like save the world and everything, kind of leads him into that situation. So, um,
Yeah.
it's good
Saving the
stuff.
world comes at a cost, and that cost is being here in this world.
Yeah.
That he finds himself in.
And so now he's trying to find his way forward. I love the idea of that. I love that this is a new saga, which means it's less about Sora kind of finding and discovering these questions, and it's going to be more about Sora kind of like going through, instead of Sora having to deal with the past and the peoples and the problems of the past, it's, I think, going to be more about the situations aren't being caused or aren't being related to decisions that were made much longer ago. It's about decisions that are being made in Sora's current time. Like, Sora is likely going to have to make some really hard decisions that's going to have some serious outcomes. And he's going to have to try to find it and make his way through, because before Kingdom Hearts 1 through 3 and their spin-offs were about a young man's journey to become a hero and save the world. This isn't going to be the story going forward. This is going to be a story about a young man trying to make his way home, and I like that. I like that idea. I like that it's this. We saw the hero's journey with Sora already. Now it's time for Sora to try to, like, what is that transition going to look like? What is that transition? What tolls and trials and tribulations must Sora now endure and overcome in order to make his way home back to his friends? And I am very excited to see where we go with that, especially because a couple of loose threads from the end of 3, including like one of the characters who seems not to have, despite the fact that we've had all these spin-offs, one of these characters that was part of Organization 13, oddly doesn't have any kind of connection to anything else in the world until now. And what does that mean? Like, there's so much going forward when it comes to things like that. Like, it's like, these are very interesting and intricate, like, threads that are going to lead us to the next part of the next journey. And I'm just so on board. I'm loving what I'm seeing from it, and I just cannot wait.
Christian, do you have any thoughts you want to throw in there?
Well, about the theory about Zora or Strelitzia being party members, that sounds cool. I'm not sure if we'll see that, because in Kingdom Hearts 2, we spend like the whole first couple missions as Roxas by himself. So it is possible to have, to play as Sora by himself. There was an interview that came out shortly after the trailer, and Nomura said that this apartment that Sora wakes up in is going to be kind of a home base, and I can see my theory kind of jumping off of the video theory that you saw, is that I definitely think Strelitzia is going to be your point person, your person in the chair, kind of like, hey, here's what's going on, and here's how you can help, and you can hang out here at this apartment for these next couple missions. I don't think he'll be spending the whole game here, though. I do think we'll see Sora back in his more Kingdom Hearts typical art style, looking like he did, at the end of, looking more cartoony, more animated. He won't be looking Final Fantasy Sora for the whole thing. I don't think.
I disagree.
I mean, that's fine.
Regular feet from here on out. No more big shoes.
I mean, he could have regular shoes, but but we had to sell the Kingdom Hearts 4 slippers, though, the plush slippers. So I think we'll see the big feet come back. But yeah, I think that similar to like spending a bunch of time at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2 and Twilight Time, I think that's what we'll get here. We'll get a lot of time with Strelitzia in Quadratum before Sora moves on to the Star Wars worlds or Marvel worlds or whatever worlds come after that. Because Zora, though, like, the reason why I don't think he's going to be a party member is because you fought him earlier, and I'm not saying they can't party up eventually. We've seen villains turn heroes, become friends with Sora in the earlier games, so I'm saying that they'll be friends eventually. Even in Dream Drop Distance, Neku from World of View is a bit of an antagonist before becoming friends officially with Sora. So I think there'll be, like with most heroes, a little bit of tension or conflict at the beginning, but they'll become friends. I think, I'm sure, but I don't think for a while. I don't think he'll be a party member for a while. It could happen, but I'm not convinced it'll be like those first few missions. But I'm excited to see what that means as far as what Nomura said about this being a home base. my mind is spinning with like, oh, I hope we can decorate it, or I hope there'll be like maybe a little. I think I have so many like Animal Crossing features coming to mind. Like, is there gonna be a boombox where I could play some Simple and Clean or something like that, or what?
That'd be great.
It's fun to speculate. And so that's what my thoughts are. But again, I really am just excited to see more interaction with Strelitzia, because she was a character we didn't too much of in the mobile games, but we got just enough to where I'm really excited to see where have you been and what have you been up to.
Yeah, Brandon, how about you?
For me, I guess I like the concept of teaming up with Yozora, but I'm kind of with Christian here that I think that that's kind of like a second half, late game kind of pairing. But when it comes to the concept of Sora being by himself, I think it would be really beneficial, I guess is the best way for me to put it, if that's an extended chunk of the game. Not to say that, if they teams back up with Sora and not Sora, sorry, he teams back up with Donald and Goofy and then finishes out the rest of the game that way. That's fine. I think other pairings would also makes me very interested. I don't know if it'll happen, but since Donald and Goofy is over here looking for Sora and Sora's over here, why not pair Donald and Goofy with another Keyblade wielder? I mean, we got the opportunity in 3 to play with Riku, with Aqua. Why can't we do that again? And there's all kinds of other characters that we can try and play as. Kyrie is being trained. We can still play as Lee. We can try and play as, let's see, who else? I'm forgetting now off the top of my head, but there's a lot of options and a lot of different ways we can go with it. So I know at the end of Melody of Memory, Riku is now off to try and find Sora and trying to find how to get to Quadratum. Well, that could be like playing as Riku and he finds Sora, and that's a pairing that goes off and does something. So there's a lot of possibilities. So I'm not really opposed to teaming up with Yozora and Strelitzia, but because of how, I guess I won't say new, but since these are characters that are not part of the main numbered entries, because for diehards like us, we know these characters, we know how integral they are to their different parts of the whole main story that is the entirety of Kingdom Hearts. I don't really think that they would really make quote unquote sense, but that's a word you can just kind of throw out the window with Kingdom Hearts in some ways or another. But I guess as of right now, because we have so little to work off of, we only have what we have from the secret movies and all the spin-off games, and we only have this trailer. I guess for me, I think it would be much more appealing if we take some of the characters we already have some time with, and then they get some more time to shine. Like, it was really cool playing as Aqua going to go get Ventus over in the Castle Oblivion, which is actually, the land of departure that it is. All these things connect. I love it. That's something about the entire series that I just find mind-blowing. But just these different types of pairings, these different types of party members. Like, let's say we do get Endor. Does Sora even go to Endor? Is that a Riku joint? Like, does he go to Endor? So there's all kinds of different party combinations that I just... We could get anything, and I'm open mind. I'm okay with if we get Yozora and Strelitzia, but there's just so much we can get. As you said earlier, the Avengers, like we could get Hulk and Iron Man and Captain America, Black Widow, and just get everybody, Hawkeye, everybody. Doesn't matter, but we can just get all of them in just that one world, or in this Endor, if it is Endor, and we party up with Luke Skywalker. Like, that could be amazing. So we have all these different opportunities that I'm just like, I'm here for it. Whatever you got, bring it. 5 years, but bring it. Let's go.
Yeah, I like what you're throwing out there, because in 3 I really liked playing as Riku. Like, I thought that segment was really awesome, and he's just like, it's interesting how they can take the Keyblade combat but make it feel different because you're someone else, and especially like Riku just feels a lot more powerful and like strong than Sora, just with like raw damage output, it feels like. And it's that segment was really fun. And then even like you mentioned, the segment where you get to play as Aqua, and even in like 2.8 when you got to play as Aqua as well, like I really dig that. And I wouldn't mind if we got to spend more time with like different characters in the driver's seat and get to play as more. And then even kind of what you hit on, or I think even Christian was like, I think it would be interesting to like if maybe Sora is doing some worlds in like the more realistic portion, and then you're playing as like Riku or somebody going to the more fantasy like cartoon sort of worlds that we're more familiar with. Like I think that could be very very interesting. Christian, did you have some thoughts you wanted to add to that?
I was just thinking about other potentials for party members, and I can't believe I didn't think of this sooner. Some people might consider these spoilers, but again, like I'm pretty comfortable with the spoilers that I'm giving out. I don't think they ruin the experience, but there is a character that's introduced in Kingdom Hearts 2, and you see him in 3, called Luxord, and he's part of Organization 13, and he's a gambler, he's part of the pirates world in Kingdom Hearts 3, and most of the villains in Kingdom Hearts 3, they're villains kind of unwillingly. They're like, hey, I'm going along with Xehanort, but I kind of have my own thing I really want to be doing, honestly. And when you beat him, he says, hey, Sora says to him, like, let's just be guys together. Let's just hang. Like, let's just be boys. And that's very much a possibility because in the secret ending, one of the secret endings in Kingdom Hearts 3, you don't see his face, but you hear a very familiar voice in the Quadratum world, and most people are under the suspicion that that is Luxord before he's a nobody. That's his original self. So if he's returned after being beaten in Kingdom Hearts 3, if he's gone back to Quadratum being his original world, then yeah, I don't have his original name, but just to keep using the name Luxord, he might be a party member. And that actually reminded me when I was started thinking about that, like, oh yeah, because they already have a history together, from the other Kingdom Hearts games. He could be a party member. That reminded me of the original Verum 13. I'm combining them. I'm calling it Verum 13 instead of Verum Rex. In the Verum Rex trailer, you see Yozora's party members. So again, I do stick to. I don't think Yozora will be our party member at the beginning, but because he seems to have a really focused mission in trying to get back the female protagonist that we see in the Verum trailer. And people have called her different names. She resembles a lot the Stella character from Versus 13, so most people, including myself, just call her Stella because she looks like the Stella character from Versus 13. So for these purposes, I'll just refer to her. Yozora seems so bent on reuniting with her that we might have those two party members from the trailer, from the Verum X trailer, be our party members if Yozora's busy, and when you some analysis people were looking at the trailer and they're like, oh, these two characters that Yozora's hanging out with, one of them is very defense. If you look at the attacks, one of them is very defense, and the other one is kind of a mage, a lot like Donald and Goofy. So if we run into those characters in Quadratum, those might be our stand-ins for Donald and Goofy. That'd be pretty fun, I think, if we got either a 3 or 4 party person with those two, which I don't know if we have names for them or not. Actually, I think there are. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think their names are some kind of Latin version of like magic and defense or something like that. It's really like on the nose, very noir. Just like, oh, let's just translate their name from some word that means what their thing is. But yeah, either getting them and Luxord or some kind of combination. Like, yeah, it's like Brandon said, it's very exciting to think of the possibilities of who Sora might team up with.
Yeah, no, I think that I like what you're going with there with that too. Like, I think that would be really awesome to see and could be really fun. Cam, did you have anything you wanted to throw in on that before we move on?
No, I mean, honestly, when it comes down to it, I think as far as, I honestly don't know where we're going to go with party stuff going forward. I think that it's entirely possible that, we will see something much more along the lines of, the kind of finale of Kingdom Hearts 3, where instead of it being party members, it's more of a, just other characters doing other things while you're around. And so there are some like ally type characters versus enemy type characters, and maybe not necessarily party based. I think that's entirely possible. I think that also would be kind of in line with the idea of Sora being kind of solo in this next adventure for the most part. So I could definitely see it being much less of a, oh yeah, they're going to be a party member and we're going to do things together and have combo stuff and do whatnot, and more so that there is just a possibility of, Sora has done a lot in recent games where he does take a more of a supporting role for the main characters of those worlds. So I wouldn't be surprised if, Sora is like, the idea of Sora kind of like jumping into other worlds, other stories that are ongoing, especially the idea of worlds of fiction versus, worlds of like the multiverse of the Disney worlds and whatnot. I think it would be very much in theme with him not being having party members. But yeah, my earlier comment was definitely an allusion to Luxord being part of it, being part of this world of fiction, and kind of like the connection that Sora has. Like, they definitely made a promise to see each other again, and to and in yeah, one of the if you I think it's the one if you beat Yozora, you get the cutscene with him as the driver. So the idea that he's kind of like a supporting character to Yozora's story is cool and would be a good introduction there. And kind of like I never saw that fight with Yozora as kind of like a conflict so much as it was um a there is so I like there is something more going on with what happened to Sora when he came to this world, and I think that had something to tie into it with that. Because the one where you lose to Yozora, there is like a very almost kind of like chain of memories type moment with like an incapacitated Sora. So I'm very curious about like what we're gonna see going forward with that. I'm just stoked and excited for it. I can't like emphasize that enough how much fun I'm having anticipating this newest chapter. So,
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun speculating and theorizing, and it's fun. Yeah.
Yep, everybody is wearing tinfoil hats, man. It's a party of a time.
Well, and so that was one I almost wanted to ask before. I have a couple specific questions I want to throw out there before we wrap up. But is there any just general speculation that anybody has that they want to throw out there or discuss?
Um,
It's all right if
speculation.
not. Yeah, I just don't. I
Well,
just want to make sure we cover it before we move on. But if nobody has anything, it's definitely all
I
right.
mean, everything's
I,
speculation at this point.
I guess I
Well,
just have a lot
yeah,
of questions about like who we see at the end of the Kingdom Hearts, but right before the Donald and Goofy moment, the camera goes up to the top of a skyscraper and we see the Master of Masters. He has a very particular posture, so we recognize that's for sure him. But he's also standing next to someone else, and there's a lot of guesses on who that could be. Could it be Lushu? Could it be anyone else? Like there's so many. Could it be other third version? Could it be other? Could it be Demix? Who Demix is a member of Organization 13, who we know the least of. I think compared to the only other, yeah, like before we learned that Luxord has involvement with Izora, like we didn't know much about him either. But now I think Demix is the person we know the least about, and so like is that him? Yozora mentions in his interaction with Sora that I don't usually look like this, so is that person next to Master Masters, Yozora's old body? That's a lot of speculation going on. My question that I've been trying to figure out is like the timeline of things, because Strelitzia says you've been sleeping here for 7 days, um, but what does that translate to in Kingdom Hearts years? Because in Melody of Memory, they've been looking for Sora for a year. So is that 7 days at the beginning of that year, at the end of that year, or was that year 7 days long in Quadratum time? Because again, Strelitzia has been dead for thousands of years, or if hundreds of thousands of years or something, but she's still just a girl. So maybe time flows differently there.
Does time flow at all? There is another
Yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm also very, and we see, quote unquote, we see Sora at the end of Melody of Memory. Kairi fights Xehanort in a dream, and Sora shows up in that fight, and they recognize, hey, we only see you, but we don't hear you. That means you are still off in another world. Part of your presence is making its way here, but that fight took place after a year of them looking for him. So again, like it's just the question of like, it's okay. So then, just trying to find out how the timeline works. Would that fight have taken place after he woke up, or what? It's just a lot of speculation on when things are happening. Did the fight with Izora happen before or after Sora woke up in Quadratum? There's
Yeah.
so many questions.
And honestly, I don't like. And once again, if we pull into the idea of this is a world of fiction, I especially like the idea that it's entirely possible that Sora no longer exists and is no longer bound to an existence of where the laws and commonalities that we are used to in the Kingdom Hearts universe, which are already kind of wild and out there, he's no longer bound to that because this is even going beyond. It's the idea of like the conceptual level of like what are the rules and laws of this new world, because Sora no longer exists in the same way that he existed before.
Mhm.
In that he no longer has a physical, or like his existence in the world of Kingdom Hearts is no longer there. Um, for whatever, however you want to interpret that, like he no longer exists there, but he does exist in this world of fiction. What
Mhm.
is like did he is this a capability that he traversed here as part of his journey to try to get home, or is this the starting point? Like, where are we at in Sora's journey post Kingdom Hearts 3, his dispersion from reality? Is he able to even leave Quadratum's kind of like like existential level of existence where Quadratum is as a world of fiction, and the other worlds of fiction surrounding Quadratum, ostensibly that like are also tied to this universe of that is not like these people aren't people who exist, which also says a lot about Stritzalia, where it's like, okay, so she doesn't exist, but we like these are such cool concepts and ideas that we are playing with here, where it's entirely possible that time, like I said earlier, time doesn't exist where Sora exists anymore, where Sora currently exists. Where time isn't this linear thing, because we learned already in Kingdom Hearts 3 that time is not necessarily linear. Events will occur, but if you are capable of dropping into the world of dreams, um, you can then immerse like Sora already played too much with well, he played not too much. He played fast and loose with the laws of time and existence, and he's gotten himself into this situation now. And so we already know timey wimey nonsense is like part of the game here. Um, and I mean that figuratively, not the actual literal game, but like Sora's already been dealing with these kind of more existential level concepts of like what is existence and what is this. He's been dealing with it since Kingdom Hearts 1 with the idea of heartless and people, and then with nobodies, and um just everything that he's dealt with has been dealing with these ideas of contemplations of existence and the levels and degrees and varying stages of existence. Like, because when the body is broken apart, the mind, body, and soul, or like, sorry, the mind, body, and heart go in different places when we're consumed by darkness. Like, so what happens to that? And so you have all of this happening. You have all this, and now we're getting a different level and layer to it. And so I'm just so stoked. Like, it's so cool, the idea that it's like, yeah, we know that Sora's been missing for a year, but what does that even mean to Sora and Quadratum? Is 7 days even something that, like, yeah, 7 days in Quadratum? Well, what is that in the real world? Oh, that doesn't work that way. There's no conversion. It's entirely possible that it could be like, oh, there's no real conversion. You just exist here. Um, and like that's entirely possible as well. Like, this is so exciting. It's so exciting because Nomura is getting to play with things that we know Nomura likes to play with, but that he normally like doesn't get to utilize in a more in-depth way. And so it's exciting. It's really exciting. Especially because we know that Stritzalia was the voice that we are like was one of the she was one of like the voices, the detached voices in the what she wasn't
No, that's
who
the
was
girl that Yazora's looking for.
the girl that Yazora's looking for, and the
That's how Riku knows where where Sora is, because Melody of Memory, she's like, "Hey, Star, I heard you met Sora," and she's like, "Yeah, I come from Quadratum. That's probably where he's at."
That's right. Thank you, Christian. Thank you. I'm like,
You're good.
piece here, piece there, piece there. You're right. You're right. Okay, untangle that a
It was
bit.
a
They're
very
actually two
popular. It
separate
was
characters.
a very popular theory that that star was Strelitzia because she says that she misses someone who's very different from who they used to be, and so we all thought, oh, she's Marluxia's sister because Marluxia used to be someone who isn't what he used to be anymore. So you're very right to think, just like I and many other people did, that that was her. But Melody of Memory did confirm that it's
I
probably
for I
this
for
quote unquote.
I forgot that had been untangled. So they're two
Yeah,
separate
yeah.
characters.
No,
I
no,
for
no, no. Again, I was on that train too. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is really.
Man. This is this thing, man. We are in uncharted
This is
territory,
the
and
juice.
it's the juice. This is what keeps us going in between games, guys. Like I love it. Gosh. Also, I just can't wait because if there's one thing we've learned, it's that the Keyblade is a weapon of imagination, and nobody has as great of an imagination as Sora does. To the point where like he uses the Keyblade to turn itself into attraction rides in 3. Um, yeah, and like, and now it's just like, oh, cool, I'm fighting against the this dark side character. Like, you remember Kingdom Hearts 1, like being in the like in the reflection of the heart or whatever it is, and just like that entire section of that, and then it's like, cool. Now watch him whip around and do all this stuff. It's like, oh, I'm caught up in the air. It's cool. I'll turn my Keyblade into a giant drill and just drill my way through that problem. And it's like, I love this aspect of it. It's like Sora's not a Keyblade master, but I've never seen a Keyblade master do the shit Sora does with the Keyblade. So
Speaking of the Keyblade and how it's a weapon of imagination, I don't know if y'all are aware, Frank, or I'm sure Cam is, but the original, well, Nomura pitched it as a chainsaw before it was the Keyblade.
yep,
He was like, hey, this Sora character, what if he had like a chainsaw? And that was like one of the pitches he had for the game, and they're like, no,
yeah. The original
there's no,
sketch, yeah, the original sketch of Sora is Sora was like a lion human hybrid character, with a
with a
chainsaw
chainsaw
sword,
sword. I'm
and
much more
yeah,
happy with the key. Yeah.
same here, same here. Because you can just see Disney being like, chainsaw sword, no.
um, but as far as speculation, I'm sure you, Frank, and Brandon want to give your speculations as well. But before I forget, some last other bits of speculation that I'll be spending a lot of time on is again just like the obvious: what worlds are we going to see? Um, and also we didn't talk about this earlier, but I am also very very curious of how much of Verum Rex the game we'll see in Quadratum because in the Toy Story world there's a box art of Verum Rex the game, and there's scans of it that people have like read the back of the box of like what the story of the game Verum Rex would be, and you know we saw that there's these mechanical creatures called Gigas, and you know there's obviously some kind of mechanical military presence, which reminds me of like the antagonists from Versus 13 and Final Fantasy 15. So those are two things I'm spending a lot of time thinking about as well. Is what worlds are we going to see? Which again, is on everyone's mind, but I definitely do want to see how much of the Verum Rex game elements we saw from Toy Story we'll actually see in Quadrat. Yeah, so I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I'll throw out one or two things before we move on with that. But yeah, I'm one thing I'm kind of excited to see is I think we touched on it a bit earlier, and I want to talk a little bit about the worlds we may want to see after this. But I would definitely want to almost see like more of like the Kingdom Hearts worlds, and like I know they're still going to be pulling in the Disney worlds, but that's why I'm very excited about Quadratum, and I would be almost be excited to see about like other places that are more like Kingdom Hearts focused for like the Kingdom Hearts world and that narrative because I really like the world and I like some of the narrative stuff a lot. And one of the things I would like to see kind of with that, even if we maybe don't get a ton of time with that, is some of these characters. I won't try to go into full spoilers, but some of those characters that may have been defeated and now have like changed personalities. I want it like because they're going to be around and they're going to just continue to be here, and I'm kind of curious to see how some of them sort of align themselves with different parties and how they maybe bring some of those threads in, especially because like I think one of the main ones is Marluxia. but that like you guys were even talking about Luxor as well. Like I think that is going to be one of the most interesting things to see, and I don't have a ton of thoughts or speculation on like what I would want to see or what, but that's what I would definitely like want in the game. Like, and I know Disney is such a big part of it, but like my favorite parts of three were just the Kingdom Hearts parts. Like the end, like when you're just doing all Kingdom Hearts stuff is amazing. Like that, I thought it was so hype. It was like 10 years of stuff just coming together in a way that like I'm like this is what we've been waiting for. Like it was literally the Avengers moment of like when you watched five movies and then you went and saw the Avengers and everybody like came together and you get the shot of like everyone. And I like that was so hype that like I definitely want like more of that kind of stuff. Like I want more of the like different characters interacting, and I kind of like even when we talked about earlier, like even different playable characters, I think would be super fun. And if we can even open that door to characters that we have never played as before, which I think would be very interesting, especially to get some of those cool different like play types and even magic spells that other people might have. Um, but yeah, one thing I know before I throw it over to Brandon to see if he has any thoughts as well is I don't have a good place to put this in, so I'm just going to random throw it out there because Cam had touched on this earlier. But I'm very excited about how the game looks. Like I think it looks absolutely beautiful, and I'm so excited about how much they've like learned Unreal Engine and they've upped their game. And I'm so excited that this is going to be like a next gen Kingdom Hearts on like PS5. Like I can't wait to see not only what they do with the visuals, but I think they're going to do some amazing stuff with like the SSDs and just like super quick load times. And I can't wait to see like going back to the PS2, they've had these like big, bombastic, crazy battles when they were so limited back then. I can't wait to see what they do now when they're just like unchained. And it's like, hey, you have these super powerful like systems you can play with and just like do whatever you want. And because even the combat we sort of saw in the trailer, super slick, super awesome. It looked like they had kind of taken that Kingdom Hearts 3 combat that was already great, but then even just smoothing that out with like the flow motion stuff of like it just looked super smooth for him to just parkour up there. And then even when he's running through the tunnel that got like thrown at him, like I think we're gonna see some amazing stuff that's like really crazy. And that's something I'm very excited about.
Speaking of crazy, are you guys ready? Because if that was Endor, you know what that means, right?
The
If
Ewoks.
now Ewok, sure, yeah, Ewoks.
Well, I thought because imagine this,
The
like, and you get like
no,
an
no, no, no,
organization
no.
member getting hit by Ewoks and like a tree branch, like how they took down the
That'd be sick.
ATT.
But
Yeah,
hear me out. Listen to this. It's the throne room of the Emperor.
I mean, I don't know if we'll get
Luke,
that.
Luke, Darth Vader, and Luke's been taken by Darth Vader up to the throne room of the Emperor. Sora realizes that he has to rescue Luke. And so imagine fighting through the partially constructed Death Star on a mission to save Luke to essentially at some point, like red lightsaber's about to come down, and what's it blocked by? Sora and the Keyblade. Let's go, man. Let's go. Lightsabers versus Keyblades. Let's do this. Let's go. Okay, you know you want it. I know I want it. We know we all want it. Let's make it happen. Captain, let's go. Let's do this. All right?
it's the Gatorade get hype moment.
You have that, or imagine this. The rebels are pinned up and are now, it's against hope. Well, who's leading the Ewok charge? Sora. Sora coming in, using the triangle prompts to throw logs across to people, smashing to pieces, outright murdering stormtroopers, because we know for a fact Ewoks do eat people because they have human skulls. So yeah, imagine that. All right, like either way, I'm down for it. But imagine just like this lightsaber, like imagine the lightsaber fight. Luke's about to hit Darth Vader, and who stops Luke from killing his father and becoming subject to the Emperor? Sora. We have to fight a dark Luke Skywalker. Imagine the possibilities here, you guys, are tremendous and excellent, and I cannot wait.
Your enthusiasm is infectious.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Can
Yeah.
you imagine the Emperor's just like, oh, this, who the fuck is Sora? Ah, lightning. Exciting. It's exciting. We live in exciting times, everybody. This is the world that we live in. We get to live in. Nomura's revenge, indeed.
Yeah. So before we move on to one of my last final questions, Brandon, did you have anything you just wanted to throw out
As far
there?
as general speculation, not really. I mean,
Yeah.
we got some time to wait. Like, and granted, like, who knows? I think a thing I'm speculating is like not within the game, but of the game itself. Like, how long are we going to wait before we get more information? Like, we already know for a fact that they already came out and said it's not showing up at E3, and honestly, why would it? Like, the 20th anniversary celebration.
There's no E3.
You get the point. It's not going to be a Summer Games Fest. It's not going to be
E3's dead.
but it's. I think probably the next time we'll see it, because it's Square and specifically Nomura, it's probably going to get the Final Fantasy VII Remake treatment, where this is going to go quiet for a while. I don't think we're going to hear about it. Like, I think we get through 2023 and we're still going to be in the same spot where we're at today. But when we do see it next,
I think,
like, whenever that is, that's when we're really going to get a nice ramp up. We're probably going to get a state of play or some spot in some presentation or Sony's showcase that they like to call their massive news dumps now. But it's going to show up then, and then it's going to show up, and it's going to show up until we're going to get hit with it. And that's what I'm really speculating more. Like, of the game, in the game itself, like, I'm so open right now because this is a brand new arc. I'm more concerned about all the stuff we see at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 and of Remind and this trailer and all the mobile stuff. So right now, that's what I'm more really interested in and focused on, as opposed to what could possibly happen in terms of just speculating what we're going to get with Star Wars or some long Disney property that we still haven't seen yet in all of Kingdom Hearts. And there are a lot of Kingdom Hearts worlds out there. So right now, I'm just more focused on speculating where we're going to see it again. And honestly, I don't think we're going to get it for a long time.
I totally agree with you there, and that actually kind of helps segue into one of my final questions I was going to throw out there. I wasn't going to say when we were going to see it again, but I'll definitely add that in for what you guys all think of when we might see it again. But when do you think this game is going to come out? That was something I wanted to throw out to all of you guys. So when do you think this is going to come out, and when do you think the next time we'll get something from this game?
Not kidding, 2027. That is.
Oh, wow.
I really do see 2027. Because again, the precedent is just, it's there for Square Enix. I mean, we are still waiting on the next part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. We are still waiting on Final Fantasy 16, which we have not seen in a year and a half. So, like, honestly, I would not be shocked because I'm used to waiting, personally. I would love to be proven wrong. I want to have this thing in my hands and on my TV screen in, like, less than 3 years. But I think every game gets delayed. So whenever we get the first window, so if we see a trailer and it says coming 2024, no, it's not. So don't believe any release window. They're all lies. But in terms of when we could see it again, I think we could see it much sooner. Like, I legitimately think, as I said, I don't think we're going to see it for another year and a half, but we could see it 2024, and then we could still see some stuff, another trailer. I think we can get information, so like not any like digital, physical, like video media, but we could get interviews, we could get like information from Nomura or Square at large, or maybe we could find some tidbits like in investor reports and quarterly earnings when they're projected is going to be. So those kinds of things I think we could see with some frequency, but like legitimate, tangible information like we just got with this trailer, I think it's going to be a while.
I don't actually agree with you on that one, Brandon. Reason being is because we know that they're utilizing the Unreal Engine for this. Anybody who's kind of looked back at kind of like Kingdom Hearts development, you can kind of see the cost for 2 and 3's massive like separation of like roughly a decade, like 9 years, has a lot more to do with and I definitely went down on this with back when I was working on an article that never got published called like A Tale of Two Games, which was the story of Final Fantasy 15, and kind of like the situation with that game. like management at Square Enix for a very long time, I don't think were like the right people were in the right jobs. I think the shakeup that happened back in like 20, I think it was 24, like 2013, 2014, that had like the like stupid phone, had a like there was a massive shakeup with leadership there that kind of spiraled out from the failure of Final Fantasy, the original Final Fantasy 14, and kind of like CEO resigns. We have the CEO becomes the CEO. A lot of like organizational shakeup happens. Projects that were long-term projects were like pushed through to production, even if they needed to be changed hands. Like leads need to be changed on them, like we saw with Final Fantasy 15. Like Numero is basically put in a position where it's like, do you finish 15 or Kingdom Hearts 3? And he said 3. And so that's what happened with that. So we have a massive shakeup with leadership that happened back then. We haven't heard too much about 16 out after its announcement, which is unusual considering when you compare it to other Square Enix products. But when you also consider that this is like the crown jewel of Square Enix, it's not surprising that they wouldn't have more information until they feel it's almost done, because that's what the producer of 16 does. Yoshi P, who is also the producer of Final Fantasy 14 ever since the Realm Reborn project occurred. He is of the mind that unless you have like something that like basically you don't show stuff unless you have it like a window and schedule thing to roll things out to actually deliver it to people. Otherwise, you just tell people you're working on it, and that's what he's been doing with 16 since the first trailer dropped. Now, on the flip side of that, you have Kingdom Hearts 4. I imagine that will also be in line with other Square projects where, like, why haven't we seen anything for Remake 7 Part 2 yet? Because they don't have a window for release yet, so they're not going to be giving us trailers. This announcement trailer does put it in line. I predict we will probably end up seeing this game sometime in 2023. The biggest reason being is that the delays that we've seen from other Kingdom Hearts projects are engine related and console leap related. Nomura trying to build an engine on PS3 did not go well at all for Square Enix. Actually, their Crystal Tools engine for PS3 was a horrible process and development where they just did not have success with the cell processor technology of the PlayStation 3. And then you see them get things on track with PlayStation 4. And now we're in the PS5 era. I definitely see them having, especially when they get that transition from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5, we will see that we will see that happen. The fact that they already told us that they are going to be making that transition is a good indicator of they know where they're at in development and kind of like what schedule they're on. Square Enix is not the Square Enix of the past. They are much more committed to delivering on product, and so I don't see it lasting to 2027. But I would be very, very, very surprised if we saw another trailer or another announcement until probably the end of 2022 or even probably end of 2023 even. But like I said with you, Brandon, like once again, you are right. We will not see another trailer or another big announcement until they have an idea of where, because it's not about like previously it's been like wherever it's at in development, we'll just do whatever we can to like make a demo reel of that or whatever. They don't do that anymore. They are much more committed to having their team focus on actually developing a game rather than showpieces. And so I don't think it'll be 2027. I do think it'll be probably around 2024. Probably, I would say my prediction would be Q1 2024. My prediction.
I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But hey, I'm a Square Enix fan. I'm used to waiting. So until they prove me wrong.
Oh yeah.
So
we will be waiting for a while, especially before we see any more announcements about anything.
Mm-hmm.
We are waiting for a long time.
Christian, do you have any thoughts to add to that?
A lot of people have been saying about 3 years, and that sounds fine to me. You know, it's between 2027 and 2024, so like let's just say about 3 years. And there's so many games I just haven't played, just in general. So like, and then we've got Dark Road. Dark Road is going to keep me busy this year, finding out the story of that and then thinking about the implications of that lore. And then the beta, I think, for Missing Link is coming out this year, and so the official game might not come out till next year, 2023. So there's still lots of Kingdom Hearts talk and speculation for me to play with, for the next year and a half, and then maybe by then, uh, I don't remember. I think it was Brandon. You were talking about like all these different opportunities, you know, for little tidbits, interviews and stuff. Um, just like there's so many Western game conventions. There's Tokyo Game Show. There's Jump Festa, which had shown some of my favorite Kingdom Hearts trailers over the past years, and uh, there's just so many other, yeah, like actual Japanese conventions and events where we could see more of that. So yeah, we'll see. Let's see. I mean, it might just be like, not that this is how companies run at all, but like it might be. But again, just shooting the shit. Like maybe if this is the 20th anniversary, if this is the 20th anniversary, maybe have it ready by the 25th anniversary or something like that. Like so maybe in 5 years, and then you know we'll see. But I understand Cam's reasoning, and I think there's a lot to be said about, yeah, like, hey, like the fact that it's running on Unreal 5, or that it's going to be transferred to Unreal 5, I think is going to streamline it a whole lot. I think the fact that it's a first game in this new arc, I think might be simpler in some ways, in that like maybe more of this story is going to be more set up, you know. Kingdom Hearts 1 just had Traverse Town as the original town, and then as the games progress, we get more. We get Twilight Town, we get Radiant Garden, and all these different things. So maybe this one, we just, have the other worlds we visit, and then like Quadratum as the original world. And it won't be until Kingdom Hearts 5 or whatever where we start seeing even more original worlds. So I think the fact that, yeah, like we've got a new engine that's much more accessible, and then they'll be transferring to 5, which will also be more accessible. And the fact that it's going to be the first game in this new arc maybe means this game will be a lot of setup. And so maybe a combination of those um, might mean, yeah, maybe 3 to 4 years. So I'm thinking 3 to 4 years. Yeah, but again, if not, if it turns out being a lot more, like I've had a lot of fun in the community just with AMVs and people making fun YouTube flash animations, like, and the few new characters we've seen so far already are like great ingredients for more fun in the community to be had. So, um, but we'll see. Some other things that might like get in the way of it. Oh, are just the fact that Final Fantasy 7 Part 2, I believe is still having Nomura as the director on that, and so we'll see how much that gets in the way of it. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
He's
think that was all.
he's not directing part two. He was part of the production team for part one, but he's also like he's supervising it, but he's not actually on hands to part two.
Like executive producer, I
So
think.
that will not be part of the issue if it takes long.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. Frank, what are you saying?
Yeah, just was going to say, I think that's a lot of great points from everybody just on like timelines and what we may or may not see. I think personally, I'm a little bit more with you, Christian, where like I think that like we're probably not going to see anything on this until next year in 2023, and that would just be like a trailer or whatever we might get. I know they didn't say this, but I feel like they're aiming for like 2024. But I think it's going to get to Brandon's point. I think it's going to get pushed to 2025. I think we're going to get it in 2025, but I think they're aiming, and they may even give us a window of 2024. But I just like I just get the feeling of like 2025. Like that's just what kind of stuck out in my mind, like thinking about it and just watching the trailer. But I mean, if we get it sooner, I'm definitely cool with that. And like, I think Cam has some good points on that and about how like Square Enix is sort of changed and is maybe having better workflows. And even to the ending of the conversation there, like, if Nomura is only focusing on one game instead of like 14 at the same time, like, and he can get some sleep and take a nap, like I think that may help with like the development of even future Kingdom Hearts games, because it's kind of been sad to see Kingdom Hearts on like the back burner while he focuses on like other stuff.
I haven't found a good moment to bring it up, but there was actually much how Marvel had like the whole here's phase 1, 2, 3, 4. There was a
Yeah.
moment, and there's a graphic out there that I gotta pull up, but they did at one point say, hey, by the way, we've decided we have Kingdom Hearts stages and phases, and this Lost Master arc is phase 2, and I don't know if Cam remembers. Do you
I
know?
do.
Are there a total of 3 or 4 phases that they have planned out?
They've planned out 3 phases. Finishing the Dark Master arc, which was Xehanort, and kind of wrapping all of that up was a pretty monumental task. Nomura said it was a very important to him that they finished it up correctly. And the Lost Master arc is like a middle arc that he compared like that. Yeah, he has 3 arcs in mind. But yeah, that's where we're at right.
But I was just bringing that up just to say, like, regardless, like, I'm just glad to know that there's gonna be more Kingdom Hearts, like, after this too. Like, 4 isn't it's not like Uncharted 4, where like, 3 was its own trilogy, 4 kind of came like, here's some more, But after 4, there was no kind of, hey, we're probably gonna have 5 or 6. And it's not out of the conversation, but it's cool just to say like, hey, 4 is the start of something new, not just extra for the sake of being more.
Yeah. And I know we've been going for a bit, so I do want to wrap up soon. I don't want to keep you guys too long, even though it's been a great conversation. But the final question I had sort of jotted down that we can get through quick is, this is outside the speculation. This is just your dreams. Like, is there any Disney properties or worlds that you guys really want to see? And this is like, you could just shoot for the stars. Like, this is totally whatever you want to see. I'll give you guys a second to think about it, because I'll go with a couple I thought. I would definitely, besides Marvel and Marvel and Star Wars, I think we can all kind of just agree that that'd be incredible. And going off that, I would love to see more Pixar. Like, I'm super glad they got brought into the fold with 3, and I think it could be interesting to, like, I don't think they'll go back to Monsters Inc. or Toy Story really, but I think it could be interesting to see like The Incredibles, or some other properties from them. A
I
jokey
just
one I
don't.
thought of
I just
that
don't want
I
to see Brave.
oh,
I just don't want to see Brave. Okay.
that's totally fair. The jokey one I had thought about was like, it'd be funny to do a Cars world, and you get like Car
Oh.
Sora and Car Donald and Car Goofy, uh,
Yeah.
and
Listen, man,
then
we have dealt with Cussy enough in the mainstream. We do not need it being revitalized by Kingdom Hearts. All right.
and
If you don't know what it is, you're better off.
yeah, I was gonna say don't look it up. Yeah, but then those would be kind of the ones I would want to see, or like I think we could be interesting. Like, I like Pixar, so I think that could be cool. One that I think it might be too early or like too new of a thing, but since Encanto was so popular, I was like, that could be something interesting, because like they've done the Atlantis, and then even like the Tangled, like where you did like the dancing mini game. So I was like, I could see them pulling in, since that's so popular now, possibly just trying to pull that in and doing something like where you're in that world or doing dancing, and going even to kind of the hybrid between that and Pixar. Like, if they did something with Coco, I think that would be really awesome. Like, it'd be really cool to see
Wow.
that in the style of like Kingdom Hearts. Like, I don't know how you would route that into the story, but like
I mean,
Coco was
that actually
so,
makes the most sense, honestly.
Coco,
yeah,
Because
actually,
it
yeah.
involves getting back to your world,
Mhm.
jumping realities and
Returning from the dead.
memory. Memory is such a literally the song "Remember Me," like
Yeah.
good in remembering. It's very appropriate now that you mention it. Coco would be a very appropriate choice. Yeah.
And it'd be
And so
incredible
fun,
too.
so fun to travel. Maybe we'd even get like a skull candy, sugar skull, excuse me, Sora, where he's like half skeleton or something. Like that could be very cool. Yeah.
That would
I think
actually
that'd
be
be
pretty
awesome.
rad. Oh man, that'd be so sick.
Yeah. So is there any that came to mind for you guys?
I'll let y'all go first.
I mean, I already said it. I want Star Wars. I want Star Wars so
Yeah.
badly.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel, like I could do a Marvel film, like Avengers 1 or something like that. That'd be cool. But for me, hands down, it has to be Star Wars. Like, just the concept, the moment they made that a potential, like, that's always been like a pie in the sky one that ever since Disney bought it. It's like, what if we got a Star Wars world? It's like, I don't know. Like, I've always been on the way of thinking, like, I just don't think so. And then they just, like, the foot of a chicken walker immediately opened my mind hole and was just like unleashed my imagination about like how incredible this world could
That's all
be.
it takes.
And I haven't stopped thinking about it. Like, I'm like, I just want Star Wars so bad.
It's such an interesting choice for Endor, you know, because Luke, if we're gonna be in Star Wars, you think Luke is gonna be like our main touchstone, but Luke is only there for a little. He shows up, he has a speeder chase, and then he gives himself up to Darth Vader. So like, but and so that's the thing that I'm a little like, I don't know. I could see ourselves spending the whole time on Endor. For some reason, even though we're seeing Star Wars, the thought of being up on the Death Star for that final battle, it just seems such a personal thing to Luke, like such a very personal story. His fight with darkness and Palpatine and everything. I feel like I would feel so we don't belong here. That's how I feel. If we were on the Death Star just doing our own adventure somewhere else while he's in the throne room, maybe. But I just feel totally out of place thinking of me just being in the corner while Luke and Vader are fighting. I do not feel like we belong there. So I'm very curious to see how that pans out.
I completely agree with you.
What if you have to blow up the Death Star in the gummy ship, huh?
I mean, I'll take that because at least I'm like, hey, we got to flee. You know, that would be cool. But I just, it's just interesting to think about because again, so Luke only spends a little bit of time on Endor before he goes up to the Death Star, which
He spent. You should rewatch it because we rewatched it for Summer of Star Wars. But like Luke's on Endor for like almost the entire time. The rest.
But
of
I mean, it's like as far as like story mission stuff, like it's a lot of it's just talking to, you know, Leia about like his conflict and stuff like that. Like, but as far as like combat stuff, we just have the speeder chase really. As far as like action stuff goes.
Listen, man, I have a feeling that we get attacked by Ewoks. And we have to beat up some Ewoks. That'd be sick. And then afterwards we get to be like imagine getting a Stitch like summon, but it's Ewoks.
That'd be cool.
Where and the song that plays when you summon them is Yub Yub.
I guess since I've already been talking a little bit, I guess I would go ahead and jump in with some like wishes for worlds. Marvel sounds like a really cool idea. The only thing I'm so curious about is where would we jump in? Would we go into Iron Man? That seems like a good jumping in point because that's like an interesting story. Like Tony Stark, he's dealing with darkness in his own way. In that, you know, he's a capitalist, like warmonger, and but learns, oh, there's consequences to this. So that's like a story you could follow in like a 1 hour world or something like that. Avengers, like where do we jump into that? At the beginning when they're all meeting each other? At the end after they've gotten their ass kicked and so they got to come back together? Or like, you know, I mean, for Star Wars we didn't start with A New Hope. We're jumping into Endor. So are we going into Infinity War or, you know, like where do we jump in? In all these Marvel movies, where do we possibly jump in? So that's what I'd be curious to see. I think now that I'm thinking about it, the most accessible, I think, Marvel movie would be Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, hey, we're just going on a space adventure. Like the Stitch world in Birth by Sleep was just we were on that ship, that prison where Stitch was a prisoner, and we just had a misadventure there. So I could see us doing like a one-off. Hey, it's not tied to Marvel, and Guardians is so popular they had their own game recently. So if anything, that seems like maybe one jump-in point of like, hey, let's an adventure with them.
You could, going off of that real quick, you could even do something with like the Guardians and the Collector, and then that's how you could just work in like a ton of Marvel references into like one world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Coco, like I said, I think works very well because Sora, for all intents and purposes, he's not dead because we see him playable, but he finds himself detached from his usual world. And a big focus of that is memory, which Kingdom Hearts has already touched on so much. So
can you imagine?
Coco,
can you imagine if like when he starts playing Remember Me, Sora's having like memories of like Riku and Kairi?
I mean, yeah,
Oh my gosh,
Coco is very appropriate.
Coco's so appropriate.
Treasure Planet. I know a lot of people have really wanted to see that, and Sora's already canonically been a huge fan of pirates. I could go on and on, but I'll say those are like the main ones that I would think would be cool. Guardians of the Galaxy, Coco, and Treasure Planet. Yeah. I just don't want to see Brave. It's a fine movie. But not my favorite. Is all I'll say.
Yeah, Brendan, how about you?
You stole mine, Christian. I was going to do Treasure Planet. I was going to make a thing. I was going to get up. I was going to pull it off my shelf over here. Grr. But yeah, that's like the only real one that came to mind because I'm actually not that big of a Disney person, really. So in terms of properties that I'm interested in, Treasure Planet is like it for me. But to the comments you guys were going on about the Star Wars possibilities, like I think it would make a lot more sense being in the gummy ship and taking orders from Lando or Akbar, like take out that Star Destroyer or run this trench on this Death Star. So that's pretty cool. But I wanted to jump off your point about feeling weird about in a critical moment in a movie story. They kind of already did that with Pirates 3, where they kind of jammed them in, and it kind of was really weird while stuff was going on. So precedence there. Granted, it was for Pirates of the Caribbean, not Star Wars, but still. But at the same time, like they can go a whole different way. Like as I said pretty much a long time ago, towards the start of this discussion, like I am pretty open-minded right now. Granted, I said that for Kingdom Hearts 3, and I'm not a Frozen fan, and we got the entirety of Let It Go, so I was not happy about that. But still, as of right now, we can. Synergy. We can get pretty much anything. I'm completely open, completely set. If we don't get Treasure Planet, I'm not going to be upset. To put it in a better way. So overall, I can't wait. And to your point, Frank, I'm also interested in the original stuff. Like we have Traverse Town, Twilight Town, Hollow Bastion, which becomes Radiant Garden. The World That Never Was is an awesome place, especially in the KH2 version. Not so much the Dream Drop Distance. I'm not that big of a fan of how it is in that game, but all the unique places we can go to, like Quadratum. I'm here for it. Let's just, again, got a lot of watching our watches as it goes, so...
Yeah. And Christian, did you have any final thoughts on that before we wrap up?
As this is like a pie in the, this is not gonna happen. I would almost put money that you'll never see this world or trio in a Kingdom Hearts game. But honestly, like if I had 5 minutes with Nomura, I would say, have you ever heard, sir, of the Three Caballeros?
Yes.
That would be just a dream. But it's like it's an anthology. Like they visit different countries in that movie. So like, I would settle for like how like Huey, Louie, and Dewey are all in Traverse Town. Like I would settle for just seeing. It's been so long since I've seen the movie. So I can't remember their names, but the rooster and that other bird.
And the parrot.
Just seeing those three together would be a lot of fun. But just because I as being a Chicano, like I just always loved seeing that kind of representation.
Dude, imagine.
I was for getting it in Coco, but I would absolutely love just seeing the Three Caballeros. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's such Disney.
One more thing.
There's such Disney classics. I love the Three Caballeros. I would love to see it.
I was gonna say, Frank, I going off of what Brandon said, like, yeah, I think a lot of people are in your court as far as like, I think even as early as Kingdom Hearts 2, people were like, hey, don't get me wrong, I love Disney. It's really cool seeing these characters, and like, it's even cool seeing the transformations that Sora has when he's like Christmased up or nightmared up or becomes a lion. Like it's really cool seeing these transformations, but like a lot of people are in your court as far as like we do want to just see like the anime-ness of like Radiant Garden, Traverse Town, World Never, all those things that you were mentioning, and it's something I think a lot of people are looking forward to. So we'll see, because yeah, he just keeps creating these new Final like the Final Fantasy style Kingdom Hearts world, and a lot of people mention like that's our favorite part, like it's like it's almost like Disney is like the cherry on top, but like the cake that everybody likes is the Nomura stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, well, I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. I know we kind of went for a longer time, so I appreciate y'all joining me. I think this was a great
Well, it's fun. Yeah.
conversation. Yeah, and I had fun, so I hope you guys had a good time. We just want to go around the table and give everybody's online handles and do any plugs that you may have. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Did you have anything you wanted to plug, Cam?
I did. I wanted to give a massive shout out to Utada Hikaru, who just did a massive headlining thing over at Coachella. She performed just incredibly over there. She still has it, just like she still has my heart forever and always. Um, she's an incredible artist, and I would like be remiss if we during this 20th anniversary special podcast of that nerdy site we did not mention the fact that she is headlining one of the biggest concerts like that you possibly could be a part of, much less blow up and be massive as like and have people react the way they reacted to her performance. So she's incredible. Shout out to her. And also, I will go out on the limb and say, Sanctuary better than Simple and Clean, but not better than Simple and Clean remix.
Yeah, no, and then also that concert's online or has like been clipped out. So
Mm-hmm.
if you do are interested, you can check it out. I saw part of it, and that was really awesome. And I mean, she's amazing. So yeah, definitely shout out to that. You can follow Christian at Pixel Brave. Did you have anything you wanted to give a shout out to, Christian?
Just that my Twitter is the easiest way to find me. Again, like hit me up in DMs if you want to know more about like maybe the playthrough version of Kingdom Hearts or like what are my best recommendations for following the mobile game story. I when Kingdom Hearts 3 was coming out, like I created like an alt Twitter account where I wanted to do just Kingdom Hearts stuff, and I just didn't follow through on it. And we got plenty of lead time for Kingdom Hearts 4, so I'm gonna try that again. So I'm not gonna plug it quite yet. Again, anything that comes out of that or not, you'll find out by following me at Pixel Brave. But yeah, just I hope to I again I'm in no there's no way I think it's Kingdom Hearts 4 is coming out in the next year or two. So I definitely want to take advantage of that lead time to come up with some kind of fun conversations to be had, more interviews, maybe my own personal explainers. Destin Legary had like a tweet like, "Hey, summarize Kingdom Hearts in one tweet," and I just like that was a fun challenge for me. It's like, yeah, let me like condense this to like just one Twitter size thing. So just little fun things like that. I I think the fact that I'm on this panel right now like means like cool like people know like Kingdom Hearts like is one of my big things, and like I just want to keep building on that. And so who knows whether that'll be in the form of a podcast or a YouTube channel or another Twitter account or whatever, but uh, whatever ends up happening, you'll find out first, by following me on Twitter at Pixelbrave.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
will chime in real quick. Yeah, I saw the performance by Tadek Hikaru. They were awesome, and there a lot of. It's not easy to say. It's not easy to bring this up, but a lot of people like getting on a high horse and being like, "Hey, you're using the wrong pronouns." But recently, they did come out and say that they use both she and they, so nobody
Oh,
get on a pedestal for Cam and Frank saying she because they use she and they. Okay, that's all I'll say
that
about that.
I did not know that they had come out and said that recently. Thank you for
same.
letting me know.
I've
Of
been
course,
corrected before, and it wasn't fun because it's a simple mistake, and we're all learning to be better. It's a journey we're all taking, and we make mistakes. And the important thing is when we realize our mistakes to build upon that, move from that,
and
and
hey, Christian, it's really important that when people are getting it wrong, and you know that they are usually people who try to put their heart in the right place on these things, and they may not know, like Frank and I did not know. You calling it out and putting that out there lets us know, lets us correct our like lets us
which is not a correction
which
because she uses she and they, so you
right.
weren't wrong
So,
by that. But just
but
throwing it out
hey,
there too that
but hey,
hey, if someone out there is still under the conception that she uses only they, we're all learning and we're all moving forward.
we're all learning, we're all moving forward, and thank you so much for that because pronouns and are part of people's identities and they're important, and that's something we love and respect here. Um, and yeah, so of course I did not know that they um were were
adopting new, yeah.
had discussed that or been public about that. It's quite unusual and quite rare for a Japanese music artist to even make statements like that. So massive shout out to them. Want to give them 1000% all of our support. Yeah, all of our support for that's a big swing and a big risk to take, coming out and making a statement like that. So massive shouts out to them. Of course, like will always have my heart, and my support. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, thank you, Christian. And Brandon, throwing it over to you. They can follow Brandon at Games Gann. Did you have anything you wanted to throw out there?
I typically have nothing ever to plug. Like, if anything, if anyone's ever made it this far, I mean, you already know all the level nerds at that nerdy site. Keep supporting them. Keep watching all their various shows, like that D Plus show, that news you care about. Just everything that they do is pretty awesome. So just keep it up. As far as me, myself, and I, like, the hours have flown by here. This is always such a rare treat, so I really do appreciate it, guys. You made this so much fun. I look forward to the next one and the next one and the next one, whenever those will be. So I guess I'll just have to close my portion by just saying it's always a treat to get talk Kingdom Hearts with my buds, and I look forward to it the next time the next trailer comes out, and we can just continue to theorize from there. But this was fun, so thank you guys so much for letting me be a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, and thank you for joining us here today. You can follow me at Irrelevant Jokes, and I'll give a quick shout out to one of our other podcasts, That Bond Show. It's a fun podcast we've been doing earlier this year that Logan and Trevor have been mainly doing, with some special guests on some episodes. And the most recent episode at the time of this is the License to Kill. So they're kind of getting through that Timothy Dalton era and gearing up to the Pierce Brosnan era, which I think is going to be a fun and definitely interesting to watch. And you can follow all of us at That Nerdy Site, and check out thatnerdysite.com for all of our latest content. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, and subscribe to the podcast. And thanks again for listening. So stay nerdy and be good to each other.